Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the April 22nd meeting of the City Council. Would you please call the roll?
Fish. Here. Saltzman.
Here.
Novick.
Here.
Fritz. Here. Hales.
Here. Good morning, everyone. We have some communications items up front and then actually a couple of time certain items and the rest of our agenda. I have one request to pull something off the consent calendar and put it onto the regular calendar, and that's 399. Anything else? Okay. With that, then let's take the communications items, please.
Item 390, request of Kristen Pilgrim to address council regarding impact of development plan for Southeast 50th and Division. And I understand she cannot make it today.
Okay. I think there's several people signed up on the same topic, so could take three at once if that works for you. 3 or 4 at once if you got 4 chairs.
And that's item 391 through 394, request of Perry Ann Sauser, Kate Hauser, Michael Van Cleek, and Brian Hool to address council regarding proposals and permits for development on Southeast 50th and Division.
Morning.
Good morning.
There's a button on the base of that microphone. The rest of them don't require.
Good morning, Council. My name is Perry Salzar. I'm first on the list, but we'd like to request a change in order. I believe
That's fine.
Kate Hauser would like to speak first.
Each of you gets 3 minutes, so however you want to divide it up.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, good morning. The other speakers and I are here today on behalf of Livable West Tabor Neighborhoods, a coalition of residents being impacted by 4 multifamily developments planned along Southeast 50th between Mill and Division. These proposed developments will add more than 250 new units with extremely limited parking along a 0.3-mile stretch of road within 1 year. A particular concern is a 45-foot tall, 83-unit building being planned on a commercial zone lot at 1916 Southeast 50th. This lot is a zoning anomaly, part of a very small section of CG lots alongside R1 zone single-family homes on 50th and abutting R5 zoned homes on 51st and beyond. Developers are exploiting this zoning anomaly on our street in order to build according to the denser and taller commercial code while taking advantage of the quality of life and community that the surrounding residential area provides. The pace and volume of these changes have generated a lot of concern in our neighborhood. I live across the street from the building I mentioned, and this proposed development is so out of scale with the neighborhood, it will result in a drastic loss of solar access, privacy views, and potentially property values, not just for people like me who live close to it, but also for people several blocks away. It is just that big. Even residents beyond that, as well as visitors and commuters, will be negatively affected by the increased traffic, parking, and noise, not to mention the safety concerns due to small neighborhood streets being used as major thoroughfares. Over the last 4 months, our group has brought these concerns to the developers, members of BPS and BDS, and other elected officials who have either ignored us, directed us to other departments, or given us token meetings for which they were unprepared, and in which they either said their hands were tied or touted the comp plan as the answer to all of our problems. But of course, these developments are going to impact our neighborhood before that plan goes into effect. To date, we see no indication of coordinated oversight or management of the combined impact these 4 developments will have on our neighborhood, which brings us here today. We recognize that other neighborhoods are also experiencing rapid development, and it is directly affecting Portland citizens like me. We hope our testimony today will encourage you to examine, reduce, and slow the scale and rate of these types of developments until these issues can be fully considered with input from all stakeholders. Thank you.
Morning.
Thank you, Council. My name is Brian Hool. My partner and I live in the Richmond neighborhood at 1931 Southeast 50th. A 4-story, 45-foot tall, 83-unit apartment complex is being proposed for the construction at 1916 Southeast 50th Avenue, which is directly across from our home. If the proposal is allowed to be built, there will be permanent negative impacts to the quality of life for many property owners surrounding this development. 50th Avenue is characterized by features which make it different from other areas where commercial development has been approved. These features must be taken into account in the permitting process for commercial development. This corridor is primarily zoned R1. It contains a very small commercial spot zone of 4 properties, and it's surrounded entirely by R5 neighborhoods. 50th Avenue has a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit and the city's transportation plan identifies 50th Avenue as a transit priority street linking east side neighborhoods with downtown. The current rate of development along this street will consume all remaining parking spaces as residents, guests, and family members of these new apartments attempt to parallel park on 50th Avenue. Traffic flow already backs up during rush hour commutes and will quickly resemble the gridlock that is now routine on Upper Hawthorne. Motorists looking for a parking space will be faced with 5 dead-end streets between Lincoln and Hawthorne that prevent them from gaining access to 51st Avenue, thereby creating an endless flow of frustrated motorists. If motorists attempt to turn to the west, they will find themselves on 49th Avenue, which is only 19 feet wide. This narrow and intimate street currently provides 1 row of parked vehicles for homeowners and room for only 1 vehicle to make passage. Motorists will attempt to flow around this gridlock by using Harrison and Lincoln. However, Harrison Street only allows for 1 vehicle to pass at a time, and Lincoln Street is a major commuter street for bicyclists. Does any of this sound safe to you, especially in a region that has a high number of families with children? The concerns of our group would be alleviated by reducing the scale of this proposal to 40 units and 30 feet in height. In addition, I, along with many other homeowners, are about to lose our scenic view of Mount Tabor, which is a defining neighborhood landmark. 14 weeks ago, I started a dialogue with David Mullins, who is a project manager for this project, inviting him to my property to see the view that will be destroyed by this building. He agreed to pay me a visit, but I still haven't heard from him. With all the public input we provided on this project, we just learned that they have chosen to reduce the size of this project from 84 units to 83 units. The city, along with neighborhood residents and developers, have an opportunity to work together now to voluntarily adopt standards known to promote sustainability and livability. As voting and tax-paying citizens of Portland, we strongly advocate proactive leadership as opposed to an attitude or language suggesting nothing else can be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk, does council have the photos that I gave to you?
We have,
Council, you should each have a photo right here of a development taking place at 50th and Lincoln. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Van Cleek. I don't believe I'm any stranger to any of you. I do recognize that I am speaking to the first council in Portland history that is not being held accountable by a daily newspaper. Council, I am here out of love of this city. I am here out of love for Southeast 50th between Hawthorne and Division, which I believe is a sacred street at the base of Mount Tabor, at the base of one of the treasures of the city. And it is a street that is endangered by decisions that are being made by you and your staff, by the Bureau of Development Services, by planning, by you, the mayor, by the way you've allocated our bureaus. You are attacking our streets, you're attacking the base of Mount Tabor, and a child is going to end up dead because you have approved this development that is going to put a driveway servicing 18 garages within 30 feet of the 50th and Lincoln intersection, an intersection where bikers are already being killed, where ambulances are reporting to every day. Each of you, either through ignorance or through outright approval, has approved this. You have vetted this driveway 30 feet from this intersection. A driver is going to come out making a left onto Lincoln while a kid comes down the hill and is going to get hit. So make sure you add budget for a white bike to put on the corner in addition to whatever else you're adding to the Bureau for this. Council, I'm asking you to immediately enact a moratorium on all construction on Southeast 50th between Hawthorne and Division. This is allowed by the state land use because the decisions that have been made there right now are endangering the community and are going to endanger children. You can vote on that moratorium today and halt all construction on Southeast 50th today. Portland is selling the dream of livability, a faded mirage of the 90s when Portland was the world's best planned city. That's why I moved here. At Stanford, we learned Portland was the capital of city planning. Then Randy Leonard laid off 75% of the planning department. The plan was allowed to expire, and you all decided to let the developers have a gold rush on our city. You're paying for that dream that you're selling by imposing a nightmare of danger and destruction on the residents of Portland that have made this city the Eden it is today. You have allowed developers to propose to build 300 units on Southeast 50th. This isn't Cesar Chavez. This isn't Grand. This isn't the Pearl District. This is a small residential connector street. It is 2 lanes wide, and you have allowed 300 units to go in on this street. That's more than live within a 6-block radius. This is at the base of Mount Tabor. Mount Tabor is the spiritual heart of East Portland. In 1966, the citizens of Southeast 50th rallied and stopped your predecessors from building a freeway on Southeast 50th. And today I'm here to tell you, we are rallying once again. The dragon at the base of Mount Tabor is rallying. We are going to protect 50th. We ask you today to take action, impose a moratorium immediately on all construction on Southeast 50th, convene a coalition of neighbors, developers, and planners to lay out a plan to make Southeast 50th the treasure of inner Southeast Portland, not a slum. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Portland City Council, my name is Perry Salzauer. I live at 1904 Southeast 49th in the Richmond neighborhood. I'm an attorney, and I'm part of the thriving tech startup industry in this town. It's obvious to all, Portland is in the midst of an unprecedented urbanization of a character that the city and the state have not seen since before the enactment of the Land Conservation and Development Act in 1973. As we all know, that piece of legislation has served as a benchmark for this nation and the cornerstone of development policy in Oregon since its enactment. The act was intended to strike a balance between the interests and forces of development and urbanization insofar as those forces represent personal and private economic rights and the interests of the public in maintaining values that do not so easily lend themselves to quantification or monetization. Unfortunately, that balance and the development process in the city of Portland has been stretched by volume to its breakage. As we all know, the city of Portland is nearing the end of its shelf life for its comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan lies at the heart, this keeps cutting out, the comprehensive plan lies at the heart of the LCDA's balance of the competing interests and goals that weigh upon land use decisions. The comp plan is in many ways intended to serve as a substitute for the need to perform a cumulative impact assessment in connection with the permitting of every interrelated development decision within the plan's purview. In effect, the plan is the way in which the city must link permitting decisions in the context of the cumulative impacts of development decisions upon the 19 statewide planning goals that now fall within the legacy of the LCDA, including specifically impacts upon the environment, hydrology, sustainability, emergency access, and historical value. The system is established to ensure that the needs of the community are not just heard, but incorporated into the comprehensive plans, and those goals need to be respected during the permitting and planning process, which in large part is why citizen involvement is state planning goal number 1. The city of Portland, its commissioners, its managers, and its employees have been working very hard to engage the citizens of Portland as it works to develop the new and forthcoming Portland Comp Plan that will guide the growth of the city for the next 20 years. That plan goes into effect next year, and we have been encouraged to provide our comments to the city with respect to it. However, the unfortunate reality is today, the city of Portland is failing to preserve the values that the LCDA protects on behalf of the beneficiaries of the forthcoming comp plan by allowing an unprecedented land and money grab for developers seeking to sneak their permit applications in based on the outdated assessments embodied in the comp plan, a comp plan that is over 20 years old. Moreover, the citizen engagement process that is part and parcel of the development approval protocols is broken and effective. We have made every attempt to engage the available city processes, bring the city and the developers in line with the real impacts of the proposed development on Southeast 50th. Developments planned without a single lead or other sustainability element including in its proposal. This is a neighborhood with a wealth of both hard and soft infrastructure. As developers seek to take advantage of archaic nuances and so-called grandfathered allowable land uses, we have a few more minutes. Grandfather allowable land uses slip their plans past the public and into action during the final interstitial months between the old comprehensive plan, a plan which embodies community values of the 1980s, and the new comprehensive plan. They are actively diminishing the values that the citizens and the city of Portland seek to protect in the new plan. The grandfathered land uses and parcel joining machinations presently being used by developers are proceeding based on stale 1980s analysis and information that is no longer accurate. The stale information includes information about driving patterns, vehicle ownership, and most importantly, safety and community issues. In essence, they are trying to shift the burdens and impacts of their development upon the cities of Portland based upon the residents of Portland's view of these issues over 20 years ago, before we, the 2015 residents of Portland, collectively and as a city, have had the opportunity to determine how those burdens and impacts should fairly be shared among all stakeholders, including the long-term residents of every Portland neighborhood. Before I end, I want to be clear that I am not here to oppose change or growth or development within the city. It is very important that the city grow to maintain a thriving economy. I'm not here because I oppose affordable housing in our wonderful neighborhood or because I want to maintain exclusivity over it in some form. Rather, I am here because I categorically, unequivocally oppose development that occurs in a siloed environment without real oversight and in the absence of a process that allows due consideration to be taken of the real cumulative impacts to the community of a series of individually made yet interrelated development decisions. There is no such process at work here in Portland at this moment in time. And as a result, development is proceeding in an undemocratic and unsustainable manner, which will harm this city for the entire lifespan of the new comp plan, while providing little benefit other than improving the financial position of a few closely held development corporations. Accordingly, I join my neighbors in urging the City Council to place a citywide moratorium on all new development, 3 stories or taller, within any neighborhood or area that is predominantly zoned R1, or which has historically been zoned and designated for primarily single-unit residential dwellings until the new comprehensive plan becomes effective in 2016. Thank you for your time, Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate your presentation. Brought this all to our attention here, folks. So do you know when this zoning was applied to this land?
It's in the last plan, and it was grandfathered in. What happened?
No, I mean, what year was, do you know?
1982. 1982 is
So
when the
it's
last
been
plan went into
zoned,
effect.
it's been zoned R1, is that what it is?
There's an isolated commercial parcel in the heart of a residential zoned, basically of a residentially zoned area.
Right.
A church was built on a parcel that was zoned R1, and that was a grandfathered non-conforming use. That's why you see developers buying churches up all over town, because they were grandfathered in with R1, 1 unit per 1,000 square feet. Developers buying the church, knocking the church down, building 18 3-story tall Beaverton-style townhouses. The other thing is there are isolated commercial parcels. There was a 1-story machete factory on 50th, a little flat building. David Sackhoff of Beaverton came in, bought that, knocked that machete factory down, and because it's commercially zoned, there is no restriction on what he can build residentially, short of the size of the building.
So CG, did you say?
Yes.
Okay.
It was grandfathered in for a small machete factory.
And my understanding is that particular parcel, which is the subject of the Sackhoff development, was grandfathered in the 60s.
I believe that's the case.
Yeah, I know that did happen, where if there was an existing commercial use, the council then, in some cases, gave them the zoning that made them legal for
Right.
what they were doing then.
Right.
And that's why Sackhoff has identified all these parcels all over town. You remember the little Quonset hut at 2626 Ankeny? He bought that Quonset hut, leveled it, and put in what is now the tallest building in that area, an 80-unit residential development where there was this little Quonset hut on 2626 Ankeny.
May I add that the development in question, the Sackhoff development, he's also bought the adjacent home, single-family home, and that's currently in a demolition stay that we had enacted. But his plan is to demolish the home also and to build the large multifamily dwelling incorporating both of those lots. So it's CG and resident and R1.
Interestingly, your Bureau of Transportation approved his driveway on 50th, where a driveway for any multi-unit development in that area should be. But the same Bureau of Transportation, a block away, on an 18-unit development, approved the driveway across Lincoln, one of the major east-west bike thoroughfares in this town, less than 30 feet from the intersection of 50th and Lincoln. And their reasoning was, oh, we want the entry on auxiliary streets. Well, why did you approve the driveway for Sackhoff's much larger development on 50th? And what's happening, we've sent all of you a number of emails, have hardly gotten any response. We have met with a member of Amanda's staff, and what's happening is every time we meet with somebody, BDS accuses planning of not having the right zoning in place. Planning accuses BDS of signing off on everything. Bureau of Transportation accuses us of being obstructionist and says if it's okay with BDS and planning, then let's do it. Mayor, you have the power to take back those bureaus and set in place a tone of a city that listens to its citizens and residents and preserves the livability of Portland. We all moved here for the neighborhoods. This is a beautiful city. We love it.
Sir,
Are there any more questions?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a specific response and a general comment. One is that, and I believe PBOT has explained this to people in the neighborhood, the developer could have, in their unit you're talking about, the project you're talking about, the developer could have as a right put the driveway in either 50th or Lincoln. PBOT actually preferred putting it on Lincoln because Lincoln is a local street. 50th is a collector street with higher speeds and higher traffic volumes. And we tend to encourage new access points on lower volume, lower speed streets because they're safer to pull in and out of. And we understand that it's a bikeway. We've had a conversation about this with the Bicycle Transportation Alliance, and although they have concerns about it, they understand the reasoning. Our standards require the driveway be 25 feet away from a signalized intersection, and this meets that standard. So they might have a conversation about whether it should be 35 feet or something, but right now that is the standard. And no traffic studies are done because there's no mitigation measures PBOT can require because this isn't a land use review. So that's my specific comment. I also have a more general comment, which is that our planet as we know it is dying. Over the coming decades, we can expect that 20 to 50% of the species on Earth will go away, and large parts of the planet, including the United States, will become uninhabitable. And this is actually one of the few places in the country that we can expect will survive. So more and more people are going to flee here as climate refugees. And unfortunately, one of the ways to reduce energy use is for more people to live closer together. Because if you've got a bunch of people living close together, then you'll have a grocery store spring up there that people can walk to, instead of when people are spread out, then you wind up with most people having to drive. So I understand that everybody says, I don't object to development. I agree that we need to have a planning system that avoids sprawl, but everybody objects to the development next door to them. And of course, we need to have a rational process, and every development shouldn't be approved. But if we are to survive, then some people are going to have to lose their views, and some people are going to have to put up with the development next to them that they don't like.
Your standards are going to result in a child being killed
May I
50th and
respond?
Lincoln. Are you going to pay for that white bike out of your pocket, Steve?
One other suggestion, and that is, you said you've had some discussions between your group and the developers involved. There's more than one. The neighborhood association's role, is South Tabor involved?
No, so another problem we face is that Southeast 50th is a border zone between the Mount Tabor neighborhood and the Richmond neighborhood. The Mount Tabor neighborhood would like to be involved, but they are spending all of their volunteer time trying to get lawyers ready to fight Commissioner Fish, who is continuing to go against the will of the voters, trying to shut down the reservoirs on Tabor.
May I-
50th is not represented by a neighborhood association right now.
May I respond to Commissioner Novick? Commissioner Novick, I have an LLM in environmental and natural resources law, and I'm keenly aware of all the issues that you just raised, which is why I specifically pointed out that these developments are proceeding without any LEED or sustainability certification. To the extent that increasing urbanization is going to be a reality in the next 50 years, I completely agree. And I am not opposed to development in my neighborhood. The reason we're calling for a moratorium is because we need to slow down. We are in the process of creating a new plan where we can all provide our input and guide a sustainable development for the next 20 years. What I'm asking for is for us to put the brakes on some of these less sophisticated, less sustainable developments in residential neighborhoods so that input can be received and we can continue to be a shining gem of planning throughout the country.
All right, I appreciate you coming today. Obviously, there's a lot of issues wrapped up together here. If we don't already have your contact info in my office, would you give it to the fellow with the dark glasses on there, and dark frames, Dana Haynes, or Rachel, the young woman that just walked in the green, so that we know how to get a hold of you and follow up with you, because we obviously have to move on to other business this morning, but you've obviously done a good job of alerting everyone to this issue.
We're not
So-
opposed to development. We love Mount Tabor, we love Southeast Portland, and we want the opportunity to share it with our children, to bring our children into this neighborhood, to let them grow up, let more children come into this neighborhood, bring in people of color into our neighborhood, diversify our neighborhood, and make sure it's safe and happy and healthy. These developments, they increase density, but they do not increase livability. They are the foundation of a slum. We need to get the community involved and build something that will make this a golden opportunity at the base of Mount Tabor where the dragon can rise.
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thanks
Thank you
for
for
your
your
time.
time, Council.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the regular agenda, but again, thanks all of you for being here this morning. We have the consent calendar to deal with. Let's take care of that first, and then we'll move on to the time certain. Again, we have one item pulled, 399. I'm sorry? I'm sorry? Okay. But we're doing the,
What?
I'm sorry, what's?
Good morning.
No, ma'am, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what you're doing, but this doesn't happen here, okay? If you want to sign up for time on the calendar to speak to the council like these citizens just did, you get to do that. But no one gets to come in here on any cause whatsoever and just do this. No, no, I'm sorry.
Portland!
No, sorry. We're not going to do it. Okay, we're adjourned.
We, the members of the city council, have a special comment. As many of you know, Pembina Corporation
our business and take up the consent calendar minus item 399. Roll call on the consent calendar, please.
Aye.
Fish. Salzman.
Aye.
Novick.
Aye.
Fritz. Aye. Hales.
Aye. Done. Okay, let's move to time certain item 395.
395, adopt the 2015 Sustainable City Government Principles and 2030 Environmental Performance Objectives.
Good morning. Welcome Susan Anderson and Michael Armstrong from the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability here to make this presentation. This is a set of principles for how we practice what we hope to see accomplished in our community, in our own buildings, in our own design of facilities and public services. And it's part of our overall strategy for being a green and sustainable city, and it's an important part, and it's gotten some serious traction over the years, and now this is an update in that good work. So thank you both for being here this morning. Turn it over to you now for the presentation.
Mayor, we had talked earlier about having all three.
Oh, sorry, yes, right.
Ordinances
Let's do all three of those together.
together.
So if you would also read 396 and 405.
Thank you.
396, implement a comprehensive update to the city green building policy to reflect advances in green building knowledge and practices.
And 405 as
And
well.
405. Accept, required annual energy performance reporting for commercial buildings to promote reduction in local carbon emissions.
Great, thank you. Good
Great.
morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. Susan Anderson, Director of the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and with me here is Michael Armstrong. Also his team, Andrea Jacob, Elisa Kane, and Pam Neal, who all worked on the three topics that we're going to talk about today. As the mayor indicated, we have three items. The first is the ordinance that we discussed last week related to energy efficiency benchmarking for commercial buildings throughout the city that are over 20,000 square feet. The second item is a resolution that renews the city's commitment to what we call the Sustainable City Principles. It also establishes a measurable performance objectives for city operations. And the third item is a resolution to update the green building policy for city-owned facilities. So last week, you'll remember, you held a hearing on the energy efficiency benchmarking for commercial buildings. We'll review the two other resolutions, and then we'll circle back and have an opportunity for questions on all three topics. So just over 20 years ago, City Council adopted the Sustainable City Principles along with about a dozen other cities throughout the United States. And at that time, I have to admit, I had just started working here and most people didn't know what I was talking about. And things have changed since then. And from my perspective, the goal of having the principles is to have, first of all, the city lead by example for the rest of the community. Second, to confirm that the city should really be making decisions that look and reflect upon long-term thinking. And third, have the city better understand and balance economic, environmental, personal health, and community issues, and really understand that these things are interconnected and their outcomes are interconnected. Over the years, all of the bureaus have been very creative. They've also been very practical in how they looked at these principles and how they have implemented them. For example, over the past 20 years, we've saved more than $50 million on our electricity and natural gas bills, with more than $6 million saved just last year alone. City operations will soon be powered by electricity from 100% renewable energy sources. More than 40% of city-controlled impervious surfaces now use sustainable stormwater management techniques. And due to Commissioner Salzman's vision, now I think it's been about 15 years ago, we now have 11 LEED certified building among our city facilities. So the new principles are on the handout that you have here. We have done posters that we'll be able to have around in city workplaces for people to look at. They include such things as the obvious sort of balancing environmental quality, economic prosperity, and social equity, and more specifics around purchasing renewable energy, protecting habitat, encouraging innovation and cross-bureau collaboration, growing a diverse workforce, and then measuring and reporting, which is very important. In addition to the principles, the second poster that you have there, the one that looks like this, or maybe it's on the back,
You got
or
it.
it's on the back of the other. So this is our attempt to try to measure all the work that we're doing and to establish performance objectives to help us track progress. So staff from across the bureaus work together to evaluate and streamline existing policies and goals that are in their own strategic plans. It's a simple framework so we can measure and track what hopefully will be a success. It includes 11 different objectives in 9 areas. The targets are for 2030, so 15 years out. And we'll report back every year to describe our progress in reaching those goals. This is something that every great company in the United States is now doing. Cities around the United States and throughout the world are doing, and I think it's something that will allow us to be much more transparent to the public in how we are actually walking our talk in terms of sustainability. And remember, this is for city government operations only. It's not like the Climate Action Plan where we're looking at community-wide. This is really looking at how we follow through in our own operations. So I have 4 quick slides just to illustrate a few of the goals and to talk about how it is that we are doing on them. The first slide is related to carbon emissions. The goal is by 2030 to reduce carbon emissions from city operations by more than half. So we use fiscal year 2006, 2007 as our base year. You can see that we're heading in the right direction. We've cut emissions by about 17% since 2006. But as you can see, as the yellow line at the bottom there, that's at the 50% mark. We have quite a way to go in just 15 years, but we do definitely think that this is possible. The second slide relates to energy efficiency. By 2030, our goal is to reduce energy use 2% per year from fiscal year 06-07. The chart shows that we've been doing a pretty good job at this. The yellow line represents a 2% per year reduction, and we're generally heading that way. BPS continues to provide direct assistance to the bureaus in partnership to help them cut energy use and also working with the utilities and the Energy Trust of Oregon and others. Dave Tews has been the city's energy efficiency expert for 25 years now. Dave,
He's here.
can you stand
There
up
he
and
is.
wave? So Dave is going to retire, which is a
wait a minute.
scary thing for
No.
the city. So Dave has done a remarkable job over these 25 years. It has not been single-handedly, and he will be the first one, and all the partners in the other bureaus will be the first ones to say that Dave leads, he pushes, he gets the technical work done, he builds the partnerships, he finds the monies to get the projects done, and then he seems to disappear. And the other bureaus all come out and say, hey, look at the great work we did. And they're very, very appreciative of Dave, and it's been a great partnership. So I just wanted to recognize what great partners Dave has been with all of your bureaus. The third slide focuses on renewable energy. The city's goal is to generate or purchase 100% of all electricity for city operations from renewable sources. So that means we can either generate power with, for example, on-site solar, or we can purchase green power. We expect by the end of this year that all of the bureaus will be served by 100% green power. And finally, I want to show a quick slide on waste recovery. Our goal is by 2030 to recover 90% of all of our waste from city operations. Currently, the recycling rate citywide for all residents, for all businesses, is about 70%. City government kind of mirrors that rate, also at about 70%. We know technically we can get to at least 90%. And so we will be working very closely with all of your bureaus to increase recycling and composting and such. So you can review the rest of the goals that are on the posters here. We'll have these available and around for all staff to be looking at and understanding. Again, we'll come back every year, have this be a very transparent process, and be able to report on how we're doing on all of these different objectives. I'll hand it over to Michael now to talk about the green building policy and the update to
So maybe
that.
before you do, there
Take some
might be some
questions on
questions
this.
about this piece.
Yeah, I first of all, I love the materials. Do you
Good.
do this in-house?
Yeah,
Who designs your stuff?
one of our guys. And one of the women there, there's 2 people.
You may have to borrow their services.
Yes, you can do that.
I have a couple questions and comments. I'm intrigued under renewable energy that you list, our goal is to generate or to purchase. Now, I get the purchase side, but I'm very intrigued around generation, particularly because I think we have a huge untapped potential around hydropower. So let's park that as a concept and talk about it. But we do have this great natural resource which potentially could generate more electricity, and I'd like to get your thoughts on that. The water table talks about static or slightly reduced water consumption, and at some point, I think I would welcome your thoughts more generally on the tension between the cost of service and our conservation programs, because we are a little schizophrenic. We are obliged legally and probably ethically to encourage conservation. The net effect of that is it drives everyone's costs up. So how do we reconcile that? What's a sustainable use of an abundant resource that doesn't have the perverse effect of increasing the cost to our consumer by doing what we think is the right thing?
And I'd love to have that conversation with you. It's something that the electric utilities dealt with really more than a decade ago, kind of decoupling so that there's not this sort of internal sort of conflict that's constant that allows you to recover the rates you need to run the system, but it doesn't penalize the people who do conserve.
Yeah.
Because you have control over the rates, but people have control over their own bills by using the amount of efficiency. So we can talk about that.
I have a feeling it'll be one of the first assignments of this new oversight body, and I have a feeling you have a lot to say about it, just to have us think about it, because we do want to encourage certain behavior without creating perverse disincentives.
Yep.
On the natural systems piece, I applaud the ambitiousness of your goal of lifting the quality of how we manage certain natural areas. I am reminded, however, that this raises a very big question, because Parks and BES are constantly struggling to figure out who manages, who owns and operates and who manages natural areas. And the place where it breaks down a little bit is a cost. And right now, we actually don't have a sustainable funding plan to manage our natural areas. So to boost to the extent that you're suggesting from 65 to 80%, means we're going to have to find a durable funding source to maintain our natural areas. And right now, that's eluded us. So I'll be interested in your thoughts at some point on that. And it will have there's obviously a budget implication. And we have not been as effective in natural areas as we have been with our new parks in budgeting O&M. So we're going to have to think about that. And finally, I'm intrigued by your stormwater stuff. And since you're talking about city-controlled impervious surfaces, what percentage of that is if you see the opportunity is around green roofs and green infrastructure, whatever's on top of the building versus next to a building?
So I know we have someone from BES here who was going to speak in a few minutes.
About that?
She might want to address
Okay.
that now that she knows.
I'm sure she will.
I
give her a
know
minute to
how,
think
I know
about
how
it.
we define stormwater generally, but when you're talking about city-controlled impervious surfaces, what are you specifically referring to?
So I think I would want, so Jane Beccari from BES is here, and I think I would
Jane.
want to make sure she is correctly describing what this
I'll
represents.
put the
because
question to her. I just want to make sure we're clear about the different categories of and what the city is directly responsible for and
Yes.
what happens to development and other
Right.
triggers.
And it's a good illustration of why we do try to work closely with the bureaus on this, because there's some pretty specialized expertise, and we need to make sure that we're getting it right.
Good, thank you.
More questions? I've got some too, but go ahead, Commissioner Cruz.
I have a question about the goal for 90% waste recovery in the city. And in my office, the waste has considerably gone up since we stopped composting, and we can only put food scraps into the compost rather than all the things I can put into the compost at home. Why did we do that? What has been the success, and could we please go back to the other way of doing it?
I'm with you, but I'll let Michael explain.
So the reason that change was made was because the materials that come out of commercial buildings, grocery stores, the commercial side of organic waste is now going to an anaerobic digester facility where it's turned into, it's digested, and you get biogas off of that, which is used to generate electricity, in addition to the compost product that comes from the residuals. And so The change was that waste is no longer being composted, and instead it's going to an anaerobic digester. And the analysis is that's a better kind of comprehensive use of the resource. It comes with a downside, so not as many materials can go through that process. And so over time, we either need to get more refined, so we're still capturing the compostable parts of the waste stream and get those where they can be composted. And it's just, the mechanics of that are it's one more additional separation. And so I think the other opportunity is to go down the waste reduction path and look for, can we be getting rid of the, dry your hands on a towel and go to air dryers, for example, which we have in some facilities.
Well, those have their own problems with noise and other, for old people's skin, they're really not very good. So it was always my practice to take the paper towels and put them in the composting. And my office staff and I have very little food waste because we eat it all. So we have this ginormous
That is good to
bin
hear.
that's got a biodegradable bag, which was presumably made with probably more energy than we are actually putting the scraps in for 3 tea bags per day to go to the facility. So I would really appreciate it if we could look at, in the meantime, we could use the small kitchen garbage pail would be more than enough for the amounts of food waste that we have in my office, whereas the previous compost bin was usually half full most days because it's things like pizza boxes. We now, I think some of us are taking our pizza boxes home, and it would be much more convenient to be able to do what we do at home here at the office.
And it's important to note that control over where that compost goes is at the metro regional level, and it's not something the city does. And so we have no control over that. So
Influence,
change?
perhaps.
they changed the rules. And
They changed where it's
and
going.
we had a lot of comments on that, but it's something that will come around again and we can look at again.
Let me know if I need to lobby at Metro.
Mike,
Where,
you
where,
bet.
where is the anaerobic digester located?
It's at the south end of the Willamette Valley,
In Eugene.
near Eugene.
But I agree absolutely with Commissioner Fritz's comments. I mean, we have, I think the energy that goes into the biodegradable bag that has like 1 banana peel in it per day is, somebody should recalculate that.
Yeah, in office settings, I mean, your point is well taken. You're not alone.
So more work to do to make that, I mean, we're doing really well at the residential level in terms of the efficiency of the system and the performance in terms of recycling, but work to do. I actually focused on the same issue that Commissioner Fish did, which is renewable generation, and loved this photo. I know he probably did too, of the solar array out at Airport Way. It seems to me that if we're approaching that goal of 100% green power, that's wonderful. Let's celebrate that. But then we obviously have the potential to make that a negative number, i.e. we're generating more power than we're using, right? So given the fall in the price of solar panels and the acreage of roofs and other spaces that we have, including on top of this building, that are not yet equipped with solar panels, what do you see as our potential for doubling down or setting a new goal of not just 100% green power, but maybe X kilowatts of net generation coming off of the city's facilities instead of being consumed?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. We have significant opportunities to add solar going forward, and there are 3, maybe 4 quite large projects that are currently in development. Dave Tews, whom Susan mentioned, has been working with bureaus on that, and bureaus are actively going down that path. As we currently generate a certain amount ourselves, and we want to keep adding to that. So for example, new solar or the hydropower, we currently buy some renewable power from other facilities. And so I think initially, as we're generating additional increments, we'll buy less. I think the goal to be able to get to 100% on site, that would be fantastic to achieve. We don't yet have sites identified that will get us there. So I think having that as a goal, really gives us something to focus on.
You've had a lot of success with projects like the Southwest Community Center, putting panels on the roofs of buildings that are suitable structurally in location and other ways, but it seems to me we've still got a huge amount of potential. Parking garages, this building, that building after we fix it up.
That's the sequence. That's exactly. We absolutely agree.
Okay, good. And yeah, the hydropower piece, given the experiment we've conducted with Lucent Energy of putting generators in city pipelines, that seems to me another real opportunity, so. Other questions? Okay, now we'll let you move on.
Okay, so the second piece of this is to update the city's green building policy for our own facilities. This would be the third update to the policy since it was first approved in 2001. And the point of this is to make sure that we're keeping up with best practices in the green building industry and also to learn from the experience of bureaus as they implement the policy. We want to be responsive to the sorts of challenges they encounter. Susan referenced earlier that we've seen quite a lot of success from the earlier versions of this policy. The city now owns 11 LEED certified registered buildings. A couple examples, the Emergency Communications Center in East Portland, the Charles Jordan Community Center in North Portland, and across the whole portfolio of city buildings, we now have, we were just talking about solar, so 600 kilowatts of solar. It's quite a significant amount, lots of opportunity to do more. Again, over the course of the policy, we've added 60,000 square feet of eco-roofs to city buildings, and obviously all kinds of tenant improvements and some of the indoor changes that actually really help employee productivity, improve air quality, those kinds of benefits. So for this update...
that first picture you showed was a brand-new Fire Station 21.
And that's Fire Station 21,
Yeah.
exactly.
LEED Gold.
LEED
Right.
Gold.
Thanks to Connie
Tracking
Johnson.
clearly. That's exactly right. Credit where it's due. So as with the principles for this work, BPS worked with a wide set of staff from across bureaus, so environmental services, OMF facilities, procurement, Parks and Recreation, Water Bureau, Bureau of Transportation. And it's also significant that the Portland Development Commission and Housing Bureau, each of which have their own kind of significant opportunities to influence what gets built, they participated in this process and are working on their own policies. I believe the new PDC update, because they too have had a policy for more than 10 years now, I believe they'll be considering their updated policy next month.
Michael, how do we, when the Housing Bureau is the primary funder for a building that's LEED Gold or LEED Platinum, how does that get reflected on the inventory? Do we credit it on our list, or do we treat it as arm's length?
We identify it on a separate list. So they're kind of the projects that the city owns and manages. That's the list of 11. We also have been tracking projects that have received city funding or support in one way or another. And so we have a memo that outlines how that has played out over the last handful of years. Be happy to make sure that you have that. So in the new update then, a couple of the key provisions that have been changed or added, we've got a more refined distinction between large projects and smaller ones, so there's a little more flexibility with small projects. And one of the things we've learned over the years is that the city builds relatively few kind of standard kinds of buildings. Most of the things we build have very specific functions, whether it's the Emergency Communications Center, a pump station, a facility in the middle of a park, an industrial plant. And so the one-size-fits-all approach just doesn't work for the city. So we're adding some alternate ways of achieving green and being sure of it without making everything be LEED certified. A couple of the other provisions that are in the new update, one is around bird-friendly design guidelines, and I think we may have a little more conversation about this, so this would bring those in and reference them. We also are referencing salmon safe certification, and this is, again, a good example of bureaus learning from one another over time. The Parks Bureau has certified all of its parks for a number of years already, and we're right now working with environmental services, water, and transportation to have their operations become salmon safe certified. This policy proposes that we continue on that path and extend that to all city operational bureaus.
So I do have an amendment I will offer on the bird-friendly design guidelines, but we'll get to that. But I was curious, what does it mean, parking allowances for staff and visitors?
So one of the other pieces that came out of the Bureau process around this was to address some of the site considerations rather than just the performance of the building itself. And so this is where we get the salmon safe certification piece. We also had a conversation about parking. Should the green building policy recognize that the transportation to and from the building is a significant part of the building's environmental footprint? And so the proposal that bureaus thought was workable was to have the city buildings would include no more than the minimum parking required by code unless the building has specific functions that make that not practical, in which case the commissioner in charge would need to, have a look at it and affirm that, yeah, I get why we would need more parking in this case than we usually do.
Okay.
So it's trying to bring in the fuller picture of the performance of a building.
Okay, thanks.
So then the one other piece in here that's new is around space allocation and space planning. And the intent here is just to get a little more consistent in how we design our internal spaces so that we can essentially reuse furniture and buy in kind of more routine quantities. So we're just getting a little more efficient across city operations. And it's the perennial challenge of staying coordinated across our many different bureaus. And so this at least provides guidelines for consistency. So going forward, the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, we see ourselves continuing to have a role in providing training, working with procurement services around contracting, working with environmental services around the eco-roof and stormwater management components, working with facilities around internal city operations. And the intent here is that we're trying to construct and maintain buildings that efficiently manage energy, water, waste, stormwater, while, and this is really the important part, improving the health, comfort, and productivity of the people in those buildings. And there certainly are cost questions to be asked. What does this cost the city, and what's the return on investment? When we look at the big picture of costs a little more upfront, but we end up with a lot less sick days, for example, better productivity, I think the return to the city is pretty compelling. So I think with that, we have a number of bureau directors here who would like to testify. I think we're also happy to answer questions at this stage. And procedurally,
Yes, I think you have an amendment you want to suggest?
So I have an amendment to the bird-friendly design project manager checklist, which I really appreciate and reflects this council's action, I think, 2 or 3 years ago to address the tremendous loss of birds that are associated with man-made structures. So we adopted some guidelines, and this is a project manager checklist. But the checklist as proposed limits the applicability of the bird-friendly design guidelines to certain areas like conservation zones or the Willamette Greenway. I'm proposing to strike all those criteria so that the bird-friendly design guidelines apply to any city project anywhere as long as it exceeds 500 square feet. So that's what my motion is really, and I wish there were page numbers with this attachment, but there aren't.
It's Appendix B, page 2.
It's Appendix B, page 2, and I'm just proposing to strike the language around project location so that a project manager would look at about applying the bird-friendly design guidelines regardless of where the project is located.
Mayor, I second the amendment.
Okay, thank you. So the way this would work in practice is that they would be required to do the checklist and use the guidelines, even if it was a remodel, or is it just if it's an addition of more than 500 square feet?
I believe it's new construction, but I'm not 100% sure.
so it would apply to new construction or major renovations, but not just an interior remodel.
Okay, so we're just doing interior work in a building, that's not going to trigger this, but if, for example, we're replacing all the windows on a building.
For example, right, then it would apply.
Just saying. Okay, any other discussion about the
Michael,
proposal?
do you have an opinion on the amendment, Michael?
We think it's probably workable, and the fact that there's a process. If for some reason there's some unique characteristics where it's not practical, then there's a process for that. So I don't think we have any concerns with it.
Do we have any kind of cost estimate for this amendment? And would it cause additional cost to make more buildings bird-friendly?
So I wonder if, Elisa, would you like to join us?
Elisa
We had a
might.
brief conversation about this morning, and I think Elisa has an initial sense of that.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone. So this is, my name is Elisa Kane, I'm Green Building Manager. So this is an emerging practice within the design field, but we've talked to a couple of architects who've done this type of work in San Francisco or Chicago, and they estimate, especially if you design with the intent to do this very early on, it could have almost no impact on the design, and more in the retrofit category when you're applying films or adding screens to buildings to really protect what you've already built, that could add additional 1%. let's say, to a project cost. But it's really key to get it up front, and we will work with the design community on evolving everyone's understanding of this issue.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And Commissioner, I had one other question, which is, have the birds ever apologized for what they did to Suzanne Plachette?
Not that I'm aware of. no.
I think that's a bum rap. Okay. Other questions about the amendment? Then let's take a roll call on including the amendment before we move on. So,
Fish?
Commissioner Salzman, thank you for bringing this forward and for your longstanding advocacy around bird-friendly design. Aye.
Salzman?
Aye.
Novick?
Aye.
Fritz?
We had talked about this the last time it was discussed, so I really appreciate you bringing it back and checking another thing off our to-do lists. Aye.
Hales?
thank you. Yes, good move. Aye. Okay.
With that, do you want to?
Introduce.
Okay, so I think we have a number of bureau directors
Yes.
who've been involved with this. So the first three on my list here are Leah Treat, Director of Transportation, Brian Enge, Internal Business Services, and Chief Jansen's with the Fire Bureau.
Great. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners and Mayor. Thank you for having us today. I'm Leah Treat, the Director of the Portland Bureau of Transportation, and I'm here to express my Bureau's support of the resolutions in front of you. Our sustainability projects are producing savings immediately and over time in both reduced maintenance costs and lower electricity bills. 2015 is a banner year for my Bureau in our work to convert the 54,000 streetlights to the state-of-art light-emitting diode lighting. Our Bureau's street lighting division began research and testing LEDs 15 years ago when our traffic signals and pedestrian crossing signals were converted to LEDs. We've researched product reliability, and now that product costs have dropped, conversion to LED is a solid business decision and the right thing to do for resource efficiency. Over the next 3 years, we expect to change 54,000 streetlights. When the conversion is complete, we'll have saved 20 million kilowatt hours of electricity, cutting our use in half and saving $2 million annually. The new LEDs are projected to last up to 20 years without changing the bulbs or major maintenance. We've already made our renewable energy purchase at 55%. That's an amount that will be enough for all of PBOT's electricity needs once all the streetlights are LEDs. And my staff is working very smart. For example, our transportation options staff has redesigned our 35,000 walking and bike maps that get printed each year, resulting in thousands of pounds of paper being diverted from recycling and saving approximately $15,000 in setup fees and printing costs. Also, our Bureau has garnered close to 35% fuel reduction in the amount of fuel we use to heat our asphalt at the plant and at job sites during paving projects. And this is due to our using the warm mix asphalt. So this saves us money, but it also reduces greenhouse gas emissions and saves us energy. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. What's the timeline on the LED conversion?
I think, well, I think we have, I don't know, I have to get back to you. I think it's over the next 2 years.
2 years? Yeah. Okay, I thought it was more than one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Really appreciate that you're prioritizing the high-risk areas and the low-income areas to putting them in first. And since I live in a mixed-income neighborhood, mine is one of them. And it's not only more energy efficient and better on maintenance, it's so much better lighting. It's astonishing, the change in my otherwise dark neighborhood. I have the only light for blocks around, and it really is much, much better. So thank you very much.
And thank you for your work with us on that.
Thank you. Good work. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Erin Jansen's Fire Chief, Portland Fire and Rescue. Fire also supports these two resolutions and are reducing our emissions and carbon footprint in several ways. First, we have solar arrays on our fire and rescue stations, and we generate our own clean, renewable electricity. Those are stations 4, 18, 25, and most recently Station 21 at the northeast corner of the Hawthorne Bridge. We also buy green power for the remainder of our electricity needs. This year, I'm pleased to report that the Bureau has reached 100% renewable power. We've also been making our stations more efficient and healthier for over a decade and are proud to have 2 of the 11 LEED buildings in our portfolio. The yearly savings that can result from energy efficiency actions are at $80,000 per year. cumulatively, over the past 20 years, our energy improvements have saved nearly $1 million at $900,000. We're also making strides to reduce our carbon footprint in our daily activities. As both a critical facility and community focal point, our fire and rescue stations need to reflect our city's commitment to sustainability, and will continue to strive to meet these goals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, I'd also add that your bureau has an inherent mission because you're preventing buildings from burning down and having to be rebuilt.
Thank you for noticing that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You like sunk carbon, not aerosol carbon. All right, Brian.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Brian Inge, Director of the Bureau of Internal Business Services. And as you know, BIBS is responsible for over 1 million square feet of facilities and also responsible for over 3,800 fleet and equipment. And BIBS is in support of the resolutions. These resolutions promote building and fleet practices that will reduce the impact of city operations on our environment and yield savings by efficiently managing energy, water, and waste through better building design, construction, and operations, and reduce the reliance on fossil fuels by greening the city's fleet. The building resolution is consistent with BIB's current resource management program. BIBS has worked with BPS in making significant impacts in reducing energy and fuel usage, and more recently in the city's green building policy. BIBS, partnering with BPS for technical assistance and support over the years, has positively impacted the results of BIBS projects and operations. I'll give just a few examples. About a year ago, BIBS received 2 awards in the annual Kilowatt Crackdown competition, which is a Metro-sponsored real estate competition focused on energy management. The Portland building won the most improved, and City Hall won 3rd place in that competition out of 65 buildings. Recently, we were in front of you here at Council to receive an incentive check from the Energy Trust of Oregon for making our buildings more efficient. Dave Tews from BPS introduced BIBS to the ETO Strategic Energy Management Program, which has saved the city roughly about $140,000 and generated approximately $50,000 in incentive money over the last 2 years. While these resolutions raises the bar for our projects and our operations, implementation of these resolutions will provide the framework for BIBS to reduce energy and water usage, use more green materials, and generate less waste to landfills.
Thank you. What's our prognosis for using more electric vehicles, given what's going on with the technology and the cost again?
So we've developed a financing plan in terms of reaching a 20% goal, I think, by 2018, 19, or 20. And so we'll be presenting that hopefully in the next budget cycle in terms of if there is a desire to do it quicker rather than over the, what do you want to call it? The cycle in terms of replacing vehicles.
Okay, great. Thank you. Other questions? Thank you all. Thanks very much. There's more? Yes, there are. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jane Beccari. I'm the Watershed Services Group Manager for the Bureau of Environmental Services. I'm here on behalf of Jim Hagerman, our Interim Director. As you know, managing stormwater, well, first of all, the Bureau strongly supports both these resolutions. And as you know, managing stormwater is one of the core services that BES provides to Portlanders. One of the 9 environmental performance objectives in the resolution deals exclusively with stormwater, with a proposed 2030 target to manage 50% of stormwater from city-controlled impervious surfaces using sustainable solutions. To address Commissioner Fisher's question about what city-controlled impervious surfaces means, it means right-of-way, so it means city streets and sidewalks and public areas. It does not mean the impervious area associated with public and private development, okay? So today, about 44% of city-controlled impervious surfaces are managed via sustainable stormwater strategies. In 2006, the baseline year, it was 42%. Since 2006, more than 2,000 Green Street facilities have been constructed, and BES continues to invest in and promote green infrastructure to manage stormwater sustainably, and strategies such as green streets and other vegetated and direct infiltration facilities will need continued support in order to meet that 2030 target. BES's actions to operate sustainably go beyond stormwater. At the Columbia Boulevard wastewater treatment plant, BES has a strong history of reducing electricity use to treat the city's wastewater. Over the past 25 years, we have cut our consumption by 40%. In 1991, our power use was 30 million kilowatt hours. Last year, plant operations consumed about 18 million kilowatt hours of electricity. One of the more exciting initiatives at the plant is our plan to utilize surplus biogas. The cogen system at the plant right now currently uses biogas to generate approximately 14 million kilowatt hours of electricity per year, which provides much of the plant's daily power needs. But this year, we're going to begin final design work for a facility to convert the biogas that still remains into compressed natural gas vehicle fuel. And I think you heard in February about that and approved the contract to go forward with that design work. This is going to provide both cost savings for our operations as well as significant carbon and emission reductions for our community. BES has been involved in the development of the city's green building policy since its beginning. We appreciate the opportunity to continue to shape how the city bureaus adopt and implement green building tools and strategies. We support green building in many ways, from using eco-roofs on all of our facilities to conserving energy at the plant, to deconstructing rather than demolishing structures that are no longer needed. So we wholeheartedly support the green building policy update. I'd like to thank BPS for moving forward with these policies, updating them, and also wish everybody a happy Earth Day. Take questions.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of Council, Michael Bate, Director of Portland Parks and Recreation. Parks enthusiastically supports these resolutions as they will help us achieve our motto of healthy parks, healthy Portland. One of the major themes of our current strategic plan is sustainability, and that these resolutions will support and encourage that. One thing coming from our strategic plan related to sustainability is our new Ecologically Sustainable Landscapes Initiative, which I think will become a national model for public land managers, particularly in urban areas. As mentioned before, we are a Salmon Safe certified. We were certified originally in 2004 and then recertified last year, and we remain the first and only park system in the country to achieve that certification. We have achieved 100% renewable energy purchase for this year and look forward to continuing that as we move forward. We're currently participating in the Energy Trust of Oregon's Strategic Energy Management Program, and that equips staff and management to make specific operational changes to improve the efficiency of 10 park buildings that are under this test. Among other projects, rebates will be offered to help fund the replacement of a half-century-old boiler at Columbia Pool. And I think over the years, our staff has really appreciated the ability to collaborate with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability to address a wide range of our park projects, because they range from very large, like a full community center, to very small, like a single bathroom. And so we especially appreciate the addition of new green building certification options such as Earth Advantage that help us in increasing sustainability of our small buildings and small projects. So we enthusiastically support these resolutions, and thank you for the opportunity to share.
Here, I have a couple, if I
Please.
could. First, we'll be seeing Jane again this afternoon when we present the first watershed report card, which is pretty significant work. When Jane said that we had reduced our energy consumption at the Columbia wastewater facility, the additional dividend, of course, is we get these rebate checks, $284,000. So congratulations on that.
Cool.
Mike, BES and Parks got a singular honor this weekend, and because this has been a very busy week with lots of other stuff, you have not actually had a chance to tell the council. So why don't you use this opportunity?
Commissioner, I think Westmoreland Park was selected nationally by the Army Corps of Engineers for a national award for excellence in design and restoration. And it's really a terrific opportunity, and I think a joint effort between Bureau of Environmental Services and Parks.
Great.
Congratulations on that. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, the natural systems goal is to get from 65% of natural areas managed by the city in healthy or good condition and bump that up to 80% by 2030.
Right.
We've been having these ongoing conversations between BES and Parks about who manages them and who pays for the maintenance. Now, Metro passed a measure that provides dedicated money to maintain natural areas, and we have not. What kind of budget impact do you foresee of going from 65% to 80% of natural areas at the healthy and good condition? And what would we have to do as a council to support that goal?
Commissioner, again, excellent question. I'll give you one idea that we're working on that I think might get us very close to that target, and that's really investing in invasive weed issues at Forest Park. So we have an initiative called Renew Forest Park that would really look at, about half of Forest Park is in phenomenally good condition. We use a program called Protect the Best to address about 2,600 acres, but about 2,600 acres has invasive species issues. And I think in terms of creating healthier landscape over a huge area, that project in itself holds a great potential for moving the needle for us citywide.
And the ask this year in the budget is a $650,000 one time.
And so one of the benefits of this performance objective and the scorecard, what we're doing is that on an annual basis, you can come to us and say, this is what we have to do, and you can tell us what it might cost to get there, and we can have that debate as part of our budget. So I think that's enormously helpful.
Right.
In addition to determining who's actually responsible for the cost, which I know is somewhat unresolved in some of our natural areas.
Yep.
Thank you both.
Yep.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Any other Bureau staff that are here to speak? Okay, so let's see if there's anyone who wants to, who signed up to speak on these items, in addition to the folks we've heard from.
We have 3 testifiers, Jennifer Allen, Bob Salinger, and Barry Joe Stahl.
Okay, come on up.
Bob couldn't be with us, so he sent someone else from the office.
Who is that man? Good morning.
Morning. Mayor Hales and members of the City Council, thanks very much for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Jennifer Allen. I'm the director of Portland State University's Institute for Sustainable Solutions. And I'm here to express my support for the city's commitment to renewing the Sustainable City Principles, first adopted in 1994, and to updating the green building guidelines for city-owned facilities. As you know, Portland has a national and international reputation as a leader in urban sustainability. And this reputation reflects the city's long history in innovation and sustainability-related policies and programs. But just as importantly, it reflects its commitment to continuous improvement. Refreshing the Sustainable City Principles reflects the evolution of what leadership in urban sustainability means. Linking these principles to performance objectives represents an important commitment to shift toward measurable outcomes, which is a commitment to accountability and to really ensuring that we have positive impacts on the ground. And while equity has always been a component of the sustainability framework, it has often been, in many places, remains a second-class citizen. And I think making equity a central and cross-cutting lens for sustainability policy and programs across Portland once again places this city in the forefront of urban sustainability efforts nationally and internationally. The Green Building Guidelines similarly represent important innovations that keep Portland at the cutting edge. The inclusion of salmon-safe guidelines expands the focus from building to site, reflecting our expanded understanding of the systems that support our built environment, as well as the impact of our built environment on these natural systems. Addressing parking and transportation exemplifies the integrated systems approach that we really need to advance urban sustainability. We need to link our planning processes to connect our places in ways that support urban sustainability and sustainable mobility. I think the testimony from Bureau directors across the board represented a really great vision of that kind of integration and collaboration across the city. The Green Building Guidelines also represent an important commitment by the city to walk the talk. Later today, you will be voting on the commercial energy benchmarking, and I think demonstrating that the city itself is managing its own facilities in a manner consistent with this policy is an important investment in credibility, accountability, and transparency. In addition, in referencing some of my own research, actually, the city's green building policies have played a critical role in fostering this region's highly competitive green building industry. And these policies, including the ones that focus on city-owned facilities, directly affect the economic vitality and competitiveness of our region. Finally, I want to note the powerful synergies between the city's work on sustainability and PSU's educational, research, and operational efforts. We have a strong partnership with the city that encompasses research projects, collaboration on eco-districts, and other efforts that provide rich opportunities for our students, faculty, and staff to engage with city agencies in innovative learning and discovery. Together, we're committed to continuing to work with you to make Portland a vibrant, inclusive, and healthy community. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks very much. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Bob Solinger. I'm the Conservation Director for Portland Audubon Society. I just wanted to express my appreciation to staff for their work on the green building policy. This morning I'll be very brief. I just wanted to focus on the bird-friendly building and lighting requirements and express my appreciation to Commissioner Salzman for the amendment and to all of you for voting for it. Bird strikes do happen anywhere and everywhere in the city. It is the #1 cause of bird mortality other than habitat loss and destruction. And it's a problem in cities across North America. It's a problem on all types of buildings, all sizes of buildings, and again, anywhere on the landscape. So the amendment is good news. I think it does two things. One, it helps address the problem directly by encouraging bird-friendly building. And secondly, I think it sends a message to the community that these problems do occur and what they can do about it, and hopefully starts to shift the landscape on a bigger scale. So we think it's a great amendment. As was noted, the cost really should be negligible if we do it up front. It can cost more depending on what you do and how you do and what you want to actually accomplish with your building, but being proactive about these things is a way to incorporate it in early, and you get great synchronicities with some of the sustainability efforts that are already on the books. So it's really just a matter of being proactive. We didn't mobilize around this hearing, but I did want you to know that this is an issue that is really important to our members, and I hear about it all the time from the community, from the resolution you passed a couple of years ago. It's one of those things that really did catch people's attention and was very, very effective. I think this will take it to the next level, but I wanted you to know that people are excited about this and people are very interested in it, and it really does have an impact. So thank you.
Bob, before we let you go, what are 3 common sense things that we bake into design that address the concerns? So when we're doing buildings, what are some of the kinds of things that we're now thinking about differently at the common sense level?
Sure. Some of the design features on buildings for sustainability, like the screens that break up windows, but basically to shade windows and things like that, are very, very, very effective. Some of the green building strategies, some of the green wall type things are effective. Just how you design the windows, whether they have large expanses of glass or whether it's broken up in different ways, sort of the architectural features around that glass can have tremendous impacts. Screening is another effective strategy. So really, it's a lot of things that we're already doing on buildings. It's not necessarily, there's some cutting edge technology like UV impregnation of glass that I think will become more and more popular. It's an opportunity for Portland to do some economic development and become a leader in some of these industries as well. But a lot of those kinds of things that we're already doing to basically affect the heating and cooling of buildings also work very well to diminish bird strikes.
Thank you. Great. Morning.
Good morning. I've been called a hippie type, and I was thinking about how...
What's your name in the record?
Barry Joe Stoll. I was thinking about how the hippies used to take a red LED because they hadn't developed the colors yet. About 94, we came out with the blue, so we have the Jumbotrons. And the hippies were using a little red LED that they got at Radio Shack, and they put it in their flashlight. And that way, when they used that at night, they did two things. They were incredibly energy efficient, but they didn't lose their night vision. So we see that in the movies when the SWAT team's coming in. They have the red flashlight, so they can see better in the dark once they turn the light out. That's called a stacked benefit. I think one of the problems we have is we don't understand that the city of Portland is older than the first oil well. The city of Portland, of course, 1851, the first oil well, 1859, the year Oregon became a state. And I think we're missing a lot of things like solar domestic water heating. Using electricity to heat water is like using a chainsaw to cut butter. So unless you start thinking about how things worked for thousands, perhaps even millions of years, I'm going to demonstrate here with my flashlight here. At this distance, we'll call it 1, there's a certain intensity, but if I move away twice the distance, 1/4 the intensity, 1/4 the distance, 1/16 the intensity. It's called the inverse of the square principle. White paint is cheap. It's cheaper than fossil fuels, actually. You put that on the wall and you get reflection. So we forget as a culture that a hothouse was actually heated by composting manure. And I guess it's a good idea to put your compost in a truck and haul it 100 miles away so you could say you're generating, what, fuel? Well, how about food? You can generate food with compost. And then you can have actual mechanical energy and fight the obesity epidemic. I have a product, Shiny Goodness. We hide it on the inside of the potato chip bag. It's shiny, it's reflective. Aluminum is the second most efficient metal for transferring heat, aside from copper, which is a little bit more expensive. And I just want to leave you with this. If I touch this and I touch this, I can tell that one of them is transferring heat and one of them is not. We don't need all these outrageous approaches when a penny saved is a penny earned.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Anyone else want to speak on these items? Well, any other discussion?
Just have one question for Susan.
Sure, please. Oh, and we have Charles.
Thank you, Commissioners. I realize that we're, my name is Charles Johnson, thanks for the cue. We are talking only about what the city has done, but rather strangely and wonderfully, Mr. Saltzman has shown the greatest leadership here and pointed out to us that we need to expand what the city is doing to all parties. Earlier, Mr. Novick remarked about the intense climate crisis we face, and we need for this action and the principle that Mr. Saltzman put forth of expanding high standards for the city onto developers who would be just as happy to be slumlords. So as we congratulate ourselves and move forward with this, I think it's very important that we remember the earlier testimony of Kristen Pilgrim, Perry Salzhauser, Kate Hauser, Michael Von Cleek, and Brian Huell, that we're not leading anymore. We're falling behind. We're not requiring developers to go in and have sensible things like solar hot water integrated into buildings, passive solar that doesn't even need all the goofy chemicals that are in photovoltaic solar. So I hope that y'all will follow Mr. Novick's remarks and the leading action by Mr. Saltzman in regard to expanding the bird protection, not just to city buildings, but to all buildings, and get the Planning and Sustainability Commission on board, getting the Bureau of Development Services on board, so that instead of passing idiotic things like Pembina and deactivation of reservoirs that would be of great service during an earthquake, we actually uphold good planning standards for everything that is built inside the city limits of Portland. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Susan, I think Commissioner Fritz had a question or two for you.
It's an easy question. I'm very impressed with all the work that's been done, and I was looking at the financial impact statement, the community involvement, and noticing that it's really all city staff who've been doing all of this great work. And I'm wondering, did you give a report to the Planning and Sustainability Commission similar to what you just gave us?
We talked about the update of the green building ordinance, and generally talked about that we were doing this, but we didn't have a formal report on this.
I think next year it would be really helpful, next time you do it, just because community needs to know that government is doing good work when we are. And there could be, I think that the bird-friendly initiative, the last time we had a similar report, the last one I remember, that did generate a lot of community comment, and it was at council. So just making sure that there's an opportunity at the Planning and Sustainability Commission, because I know that with blending the two commissions, we want to make sure that we don't lose the sustainability part at that commission level. So that's just a request.
Yep, absolutely.
And I just want to sort of plant the question. As we heard a lot of testimony this morning from folks concerned about developments on 50th and Division, mentioning they're not LEED certified, probably not Earth Advantage. I guess, is it time to extend our green building standards across the city to all development? I leave that as a question, maybe an open one.
I would have answered yes 20 years ago before LEED was even here, and so you know that. I will be bringing back to you as part of the Central City plan an idea about how could we do that for larger buildings. The city we have statewide building codes, which mean we can't adopt our own local building codes, but there may be things we can do through the zoning code, and there may be some things we can do through sort of implementation and interpretation of the building code, but we have never been able to just leapfrog ahead of the rest of the state. But if y'all are interested, I'm more than happy to bring back a few of these ideas.
I'm interested.
Does that mean under state law, we have some similar challenges we have with like inclusionary zoning and other things that it would have to be tailored? So for example, we might have to offer an incentive of some kind in order to mandate it, but not in order to get the desired outcome.
Yes, we can't require something beyond the state code, but we could offer an
But
incentive.
link it to
We
a
could-
bonus
yes,
or something.
Yes.
Jackie's nodding.
Yep, I bet Jackie's got
Absolutely.
an idea or two on this subject too.
So in the next 6 months, you'll hear a few of these ideas as part of both the comprehensive plan and the Central City plan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Other discussion before we take votes on these items? So let's take a roll call vote first on 395.
395, Fish.
Well, what a nice way to start Earth Day, and congratulations on sustained excellence over many years. And I actually really do like the way, the graphic design and the way you've organized this stuff. But there's a number of areas that, because of my portfolio, we'll be working closely on. And I particularly appreciate, Susan, your willingness to help us think through some of these policy conundrums we have, particularly with water and conservation. So I look forward to having that conversation. Thank you both for your good work. Aye.
Salzman.
I appreciate all the work of all the bureaus and Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and definitely want to recognize Dave Tews for all of his glue that holds a lot of these very complicated projects together. I mean, he has some institutional memory and knowledge that we're gonna lose unless he comes back as a consultant to us. So anyway, thanks, Dave. Aye.
Novick.
I think Earth Day should be an opportunity to celebrate our environmental successes. So I'd like to give a shout out to the Clean Air Act, which has dramatically reduced the number of unhealthy air days throughout American cities. And a shout out to the Clean Water Act, which has drastically increased the number of swimmable and fishable rivers and lakes in the past 40 years. And to the state of Oregon's land use laws, which have reduced sprawl, which promotes energy conservation. And of course, to our city bureaus who, as we've just demonstrated, are working so tirelessly to reduce waste, reduce energy use, and walk our talk. So thank you very much. Aye.
Fritz.
Thank you, Susan and Michael, for your leadership, and Dave for all of your years of service. And thanks to all of the bureaus for working together on this. It's a good example of a shared value that we have as Portlanders, that we care about this stuff and we're willing to put time and effort into it. Aye.
Hales.
I want to second all those comments, including we hope that Dave's advice continues to come to the city somehow, volunteer, consultant, whatever we can work out, because you've been great. And I think what I really want to add to the comments here is that although individually or collectively over the years, the council's shown some leadership on these issues. I appreciate yours today, Commissioner Salzman. But there have been people in the bureaus over the years that have really been the keepers of the flame. I mean, Susan's been working on these issues since she headed the energy office. And actually, before that was on Commissioner Lindbergh's staff, if I got that right. And Michael as well has been working on these issues for a long time. Dave's been here for 25 years. There are a lot of people in the city, in our workforce, who have carried these ideas forward and who are national leaders in their own right. And we appreciate that, and this is a chance to say bravo, and let's keep going, and let's look for new ways to apply the talent that we have in our bureaus to that shared value, and now very clearly stated, restated set of shared objectives. So I really appreciate the work and the progress. Aye. And then item 396.
Fish.
So thanks to everybody, particularly Alyssa Kane, for your great work. And we had a fuller discussion on this before, and I think we all had a chance to make our comments then, but thank you for your good work. Aye.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Novick?
Aye.
Fritz?
Aye.
Hales?
Aye. And then 405.
Fish?
This is the second reading on the commercial building benchmarking.
Aye.
Saltzman?
Well, I just want to commend again the Bureau and the Mayor's Office for their leadership on this. This is going to be a very important piece of information for furthering people's decisions to locate in buildings that are energy efficient and have other green building features. Knowledge is power, and this is what this is about. Aye.
Novick?
Knowledge is power, and knowledge leads to action. I've got an example of that right here, this little step counter that tells me how many or how few steps I've taken every day, and I guarantee that I walk more since I have this thing. So when people know how much energy their buildings are using, they will spur them to use less.
Fritz?
Well, this is, again, something you've been working on for a long time, and I appreciate that, the care that with which you've worked with development and the business community to make sure that their concerns are addressed. It's clear that the voluntary incentive programs haven't seen the participation rates that we were hoping for, and so moving to a mandatory reporting is the right way to go. Thanks to Alyssa Kane and Jackie Dingfelder and others who've worked on this program, and for everybody who's participated. Aye.
Hales?
Yeah, I want to again express both thanks and amazement to Alyssa and Jackie and Michael and Susan for the hearing that we had. We were, someone described that hearing as, please regulate me, thank you, which happens so often in our business and only happens when somebody does a lot of very good consensus building over a long time, which is exactly what you've done here. And you worked effectively as partners with the commercial building industry, that proving to them that this was a good idea, and patiently moving the goalpost farther and farther so that we had to run to a new spot. So everybody ran together. It was really an amazing a level of consensus. And that means that not only will we get compliance, but like Commissioner Novick just illustrated, I think people will continue to compete in a beneficial way once those numbers are out there, to say, here's how great a job we're doing in actually complying with this shared goal and making all of our buildings more efficient. So excellent piece of work. Thank you very much. Aye. Happy Earth Day.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to 397.
397, accept the quarterly Technology Oversight Committee report from the Chief Administrative Officer.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Jen Clodius. I'm a Senior Management Analyst in the Office of Management and Finance and the staff support for the Technology Oversight Committee. I'm here with Ben Berry, Chief Technology Officer. We're here to present the Technology Oversight Committee's quarterly report for January through March 2015. As you know, the TOC is made up of 5 community members, each appointed by a City Council member. The TOC members are Ken Neubauer, Wilfred Pinfold, Joshua Mitchell, Diana Garcia, and Colleen Gadbois. Normally, a TOC member, one or more of them, would be here to present this report to you. Unfortunately, every one of them had a prior commitment this morning. So today, Chief Technology Officer Ben Berry will be providing you with the updates on the projects under TOC's oversight. Ben doesn't know I'm going to say this, but as you're aware, this is the last time Ben will be providing updates as CTO. And I frankly would like to acknowledge his leadership and his support of the Technology Oversight Committee. Ben will be projecting dashboards where applicable. Each dashboard contains information from January through March and is provided by the project management staff, the quality assurance contractors, and the TOC itself. Ben will then provide updated information from the April meeting, which was held just 2 nights ago. Ben?
Thank you, Jen, and I did not know she was going to say that. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Ben Berry. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the City of Portland, and I'm happy to be here today. I will be reporting on 5 projects on behalf of the Citizens Technology Oversight Committee. First up will be the BDS, Bureau of Development Services Information Technology Advancement Project. Second will be the Portland Housing Bureau's Affordable Housing Software Project. Third is the OMF Bureau of Finance and Revenue Services Procurement Solicitation System. Next will be the Auditor's Office Lien Accounting System. And finally, we'll have the OMF Bureau of Technology Services and Bureau of Finance and Revenue Services, PCI, and Payment Gateway. First up, ITAP. This project develops a paperless permit and case management process and allows complete online access to the permitting and case review services. Project deliverables include digitization and online access of historical permits and property information, implementation of an updated permit and case review information management system, online case and permit application, and review of services. Mobile online access for field staff is also available, and the implementation of an automated queuing system. The current status from the Technology Oversight Committee, this TOC continues to have concerns around the project schedule and volume of remaining work. You'll remember this project has been in red status in terms of what the TOC has been reporting for the last three reporting cycles. Major accomplishments, however, for this quarter. And this quarter, I'll remind you, from January through March of 2015, the project manager continues to deliver monthly deficiency reports to the contractor Sierra Cedar. Secondly, most of the previous issues have been resolved. A development halt was lifted in terms of some of the project modules to be delivered. And finally, the Sierra's project manager resigned. You'll recall that we had 17 staff from the contractor on board this project. At that time, we had changed at about 16 people. Of the 17, the project manager resigned as well. It constitutes a brand new team, which the Bureau feels confident in, I might also add. Sierra's transition plan seems to be working well. The upcoming milestones for next quarter are the integration of the geographic information systems and data cleanup and conversion. And then, of course, the risk as TOC sees this. TOC continues to be concerned about the project schedule and volume of remaining work. Now, to that end, I met as CTO along with Kalei Taylor, the city attorney's office, last week to talk about if we can't, in fact, do a re-baseline of this initiative, because we believe the project could gain traction by looking at a deep down review of the schedule to elongate the schedule. And in fact, the project does have some contingency dollars in which to absorb that reset. And the Bureau was looking at that. At our meeting on this week at TOC, the Bureau did state they believe they could do a deeper dive on the schedule between now and June and publish a reset on the schedule by July. And so that is the intent. Now, as you look at the dashboard of this project, QA assessment has shown the schedule to be red. QA believes the budget is in yellow and the scope is in yellow. The TOC assessment, however, has had a consistent red for schedule, budget, and scope the last 3 reporting. And one thing to keep in mind, the distinction between what QA is seeing in terms of the yellow for schedule, many times if your schedule is in the red, it may have a direct relationship to what your budget will look like in the future.
And so it's TOC's way of giving you an early alert in terms of their thinking on the budget, not being the same as yellow for QA. And because the budget and schedules in red from TOC standpoint, they are also questioning the scope, and that's why they're showing that in red as well. Now, you'll remember when we show red for a project, it does mean director intervention. And Director Scarlett has been engaged on this. He is here today to answer any questions you may have, as is the project manager, Rebecca Sponzel.
I have a question, Ben. Part of the reason we have this system now is to give the council information and at some point seek the council action. So we've delegated to you and the professionals tracking these things, color coding them, showing trends. But what happens if you come back to us in the next quarter and we're still under, in your judgment, all in red? At what point do we go beyond director intervention to council action?
I believe there is, Commissioner Fish, I believe there is an opportunity to correct the TOC's thinking on the schedule. If we're successful in baselining the project between now and June, and then reporting that in July, the question you're asking about council intervention will not be necessary. Because I think we can turn this project around, but we do have to give the project some breathing room on the schedule so that the vendor can make more deliverables given the complexity of the project.
So is there anything that you're specifically recommending that we do today in light of this report?
Commissioner Fish, my recommendation is that you listen to the director, give his response. I would also recommend that the council give credence to a re-baselining of the project between now and June and report on in July so that we can make progress. I do think they're making better progress since the team has been changed out. The Bureau believes they're making better progress. They have statistics on the number of deliverables that have been completed, as well as the ones that are actually in work. And so I think they're making progress, but they do need to readdress that schedule baseline.
Rebaselining means just establishing a new schedule, project schedule?
Commissioner Saltzman, that's exactly what it means, so that we can have more breathing room for the project to deliver on these deliverables with this vendor.
And if I might elaborate on that, colleagues, that the schedule that was previously set at the beginning of the project can never be met at this point. So it will always be red, and so everything else will always be red. So we need to, now that we have had this new team from Sierra 17 of 17, and the new oversight, which Paul Scarlett and Rebecca Spence will be talking with you about in a few minutes, we set the new schedule, and we hope to have that by July. And at that point, then, we'll be able to have the quarterly reports to know, are we actually meeting a realistic schedule? We had talked about that in the last quarterly report. There are 4 different vendors involved. And so when you're renegotiating contracts with 4 vendors, it's more complex than might appear. And so that's why it'll take us till July to have that new schedule.
Follow-up question on that. If you're likely to, through sort of this reset, change the schedule, and your confidence level is at best medium, why aren't you projecting more on the upside on the budget? Why aren't you projecting a more significant bump on projected costs for the project?
Commissioner Fish, the current dashboard you're looking at is through January through March. And I believe once they have had the deeper dive on the schedule between now and June and the 1st of July, that reading on the confidence level may change. But right now it's March through January through March 2015.
And what is our formal or informal policy about what additional flag goes up if we go X percent or X dollars above the original forecast? In other words, at what point does that become a concern if the budget starts growing?
Commissioner Fish, if the budget starts to grow beyond the contingency that is in the project, you'll recall there was over $1 million placed in contingency for this project from the onset.
And so I think that would become another great concern for TLC and the QA at that point, and should be brought to the attention of the council.
Are you confident in our contract terms in this case with the vendor?
Mr. Mayor, we did have our city attorneys look at the contract. There is language in that contract that still needs to be examined. At some point, we have to decide, is it to the city's advantage to do the reset based on the contract language? And how does that impact the prime vendor in terms of what their rights are in that contract?
Okay, I'm glad that review's taking place. There's a lot of risk here. So.
Yes.
Okay, other questions? And then did you want Paul to come up now and talk about
If the council is asking for Mr. Director Scarlett to come up, I'm sure he would come up if he needs to.
Please, Paul, come on up. Grab another chair if you need one. So just want to get your thoughts and plans for guiding this. You've been spending a lot of time and effort on this project, and you know both the opportunity and the risk here. So tell us your thoughts, please.
Yeah, Paul Scarlett, Director for Bureau of Development Services. I am very closely involved in the project and its review and providing guidance, constantly in conversation with the vendor. And as Ben has stated, one of the biggest focus now actually continues to be on the project itself. A number of things. One, the deliverables, the timeline, the budget. The timeline, as you know, is in red and continues to be of major concern. The reset or rebaseline is the way to go about it. The last time we were here and reported, I did share with you that we were in conversation with the vendors and would look at a sort of a new timeline. The new timeline currently in place for go-live date is February of 2016. That's not going to happen. We are behind. And so having that frank conversation with the vendor and in conversation with the Calais Taylor, our city attorney, and procurement, we have an opportunity to redirect and resize or re-timeline this, and that's where I believe we can increase the confidence. We have low concern, or at least high confidence, that they can deliver. Some of the accomplishments shows that they can make this update work to, of course, increase access and so forth. So would there be an increase in budget? Maybe, but that will be part of the review of the contract to see if the new timeline is going to be whatever it is, 6 months or 9 months or so. What will that mean? Is there enough money in the contingency portion of the contract to cover that effort? And we will have to explore and reach that conclusion and decide whether we need to add more money or not. So we have had a lot of interactions with the vendors. They are aware, acknowledge, and are ready to work with us. The contract review will require a deep dive, as Ben has said, but it will also take a combined effort between us and the vendor to make sure we're on the same page and have the same goal lines or achievable, that it's realistic. And so Rebecca Sponsel, the project manager, works more closely, of course, with the project and has had similar conversation with the vendors, of course, with the city attorney. In talking with Commissioner Fritz, we had city attorney in those discussions. We feel there will be a higher level of confidence. We feel better moving forward in this direction rather than coming back. And of course, we're in the red. We don't want to be in the red. We think there is an opportunity to get out and to move forward with the scope and the deliverables and the timelines and of course, address the budget piece.
I want to ask Rebecca Sponsel to give the report, a shorter version of the report that you gave to me this week regarding some of the progress that's making you more hopeful.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Fritz. We do have an active replan. We have an active replan and resyncing of the project that commenced in March. It is starting to return good results, meaning the logjam of uncompleted work has finally been broken, and we have completed units being tested successfully. The integration between our plan review software and our primary permitting software has been achieved, but is still in need of fine-tuning, and that is a vendor-to-vendor issue that is actively being worked, but is challenged. And we believe the amendments with regard to some language in the contract about who owns which part of the responsibility will help assist us in completing this integration. The project is red. We acknowledge that. It does not feel good, but it is a reality of risk as assessed by our independent QA. We welcome that. It guides us in our project conversations with our vendor and helps us apply leverage where it's very important to apply. The ITAP does have complexity that was called out before my arrival and before the project was chartered about the complexity in the project itself, about city co-location principles, as we have discussed in other council meetings. And that continues to be worked in the requirements gathering and in the configuration solutioning that is ongoing in this project. It's normal and natural to work these solutions and discover still more in this phase. The phase was always intended to be 1.5 years long. It looks like it could go longer based on findings and based on some resource challenges that we had initially with the vendor. We believe that the resource or consultant issues have been addressed, that we have a solid team on board, and they are partnering actively with the city to accomplish higher quality and certainly more timely delivery. That being said, we cannot make up for the time that we have lost at this point. And so we believe that a rebaseline will be important, but it needs to be connected to a schedule that both parties, all parties, can support. And that will give all of us confidence in the date that we will eventually be presenting to council.
Well, can I ask you about your budget? You've described a contingency, which we'll call bucket number one. So
Yes.
if the costs go up, you've got $1 million or something in contingency, right? That's bucket number one. If for some reason you have to go beyond that, what's the next bucket?
We have a reserve, and we could look at that as a way to support this project.
Your reserves are like in the 30-something million range?
Yes, or above.
So you could tap your reserves. Is there a point in which you would have to come to council?
Yes, that would be a juncture point to come back to council to show the change and request approval that we continue in that direction.
Under our purchasing protocols, they have to come back to council regardless of the color of money, regardless of the fact that it's in a reserve fund or a dedicated fund as opposed to general fund. So.
Right, but I think your question was intended, is there going to be a general fund asked? And I believe the answer is no.
And what's the impact on your own staffing as this thing continues? Are you required to dedicate staff that otherwise could be doing other things to address this immediate concern?
Fortunately, because of our strong economic situation, we're able to have staff dedicated to the ITAP project and have added additional staff to maintain operation otherwise. So we'll maintain that sort of arrangement. And so there isn't an impact, if you will. We're able to continue running both courses.
And I should also add that thanks to those of you who are have bureaus involved in the development services permitting system, that we have received excellent responses from your bureaus. And we'll certainly let you know if there's any kind of a overtaxing of your staff or a need to add staff in transportation or environmental services, water. But for right now, we believe that the city's part is going well.
We have some.
Rebecca has another.
I have a clarification to make to the council. The dates that Mr. Berry was talking about, in fact, we have made a commitment to come up with the first drafts of the amendments by the 1st of June. We expect that because of the complexity of the number of vendors that we need to work them through, that we will not have something till the end of July. But we should have an indication with a schedule during the July timeframe that was named earlier.
I guess I would like to request, I mean, the next time you'll be before us is in July or end of July. Could the quality assurance consultant also appear next time?
Yes, and he's here.
Oh, he's here. Oh.
Yes,
Oh,
Cliff
okay.
Smith.
Well,
Case
next time.
Associates.
Next time,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, Case and Associates.
Okay, other questions? Thank you both. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
The next project we'll be reporting on is the affordable housing software with the Portland Housing Bureau. Portland Housing Bureau contracted with the Housing Development Software, HDS, Inc., to implement a solution that will provide a single data repository for the city's affordable housing programs. This effort replaces disparate systems with a modern and effective single core system, providing data entry efficiencies, reducing overall costs, and improving access to data and reporting tools. The status, the test window concluded with no major issues. The vendor provided a patch that resolved all minor issues, and this project is complete. We now show that all the work done for this project is in the green from both a quality assurance as well as the Citizens Technology Oversight Committee. Any questions on the housing project? Okay. Next project we'll be reporting on is the procurement solicitation system. Procurement Services is outgrowing their current solicitation system, which doesn't offer a cost-effective solution or the functionality required by the city. Procurement is planning to replace and integrate 3 systems into one and add functionality that will allow electronic RFP submissions. The project is currently meeting all expectations, major accomplishments this quarter. They developed a project schedule. They tested the environment. The test environment was installed. They're performing initial configuration to the out-of-the-box functionality, and they're beginning the interface design. The upcoming milestones are next quarter. They will complete development of the systems interfaces, install and configure production environment. They'll do a data migration and testing. They'll begin to manage change and train staff, and they'll be doing user acceptance testing. From the TOC and the quality assurance standpoint, both groups are showing this project in the green dashboard, and they're good to go.
Could you remind us, Ben, two things that jump out at me on this are confidence level remains low and the budget has more than doubled. And you've probably explained that previously to us, but why is the budget doubled?
Commissioner Fish, the initial reason why the project budget increased was because we asked the Bureau to add their internal labor cost to the project. Before, they were not showing the labor cost, and once that was included, that's what constitutes the increase in budget.
Thank you. So it's more of an accounting issue.
It was an accounting issue,
Not a change in scope.
not a change in scope. Any questions on that procurement?
No, and when you get to the next project, please refresh our memory on the same question about the budget growth.
Yes. The lien accounting system rewrite, this is the auditor's office. The lien accounting system is used to record and manage assessments and liens for the city as required by the city charter and the Oregon state law. The application is written in an old programming language and is one of 2 remaining applications on the mainframe server, which is scheduled to be decommissioned by July 1st, 2015. Because of the tight timeline and resource constraints, the decision was made to rewrite the existing system using a more modern programming language and transfer it to a Windows environment. To date, the major accomplishments to this quarter were completed user acceptance testing for accounts and building modules. They completed the development work for the recording and projects modules. The Revenue Division has begun user acceptance testing for the receivables and reports modules, and their project acceptance plan was finalized and approved. Upcoming milestones for next quarter, they will resolve any issues found in the user acceptance testing and regression testing. Secondly, they'll continue development work on the bond processing and reports module, and work on project plans for deployment, maintenance, and operations, and training will continue. The concerns on this project, lack of a solid schedule is still a concern from the eyes of the quality assurance. And secondly, the project is currently meeting expectations in terms of what the Bureau, what the Auditor's Office feels they need to be making. So there's a little bit of a distinction between what the QA sees on this versus what the Auditor's Office sees on it. If you look at the dashboard, the Quality Assurance and the Technology Oversight Citizens Committee assessment shows red for schedule, yellow for budget, and green for scope. And Mr. Mayor, your question was why did the increase in budget occur?
I sit on the executive steering committee for this project, and the executive steering committee, which is the auditor, as well as the chief technology officer, each point where we see we need to rethink our budget, we've taken the executive decision to increase by increasing staff. So we actually brought in an additional programmer. For example, we continue to assess the month-to-month status of the project. We would rather add dollars before the end date of July 1st because those dollars added are more cost-effective versus holding the mainframe on for a series of months thereafter. Now, having said that, we did have a meeting just yesterday, and we determined to hold the mainframe on for one extra month will be about $40,000 to $65,000. And so even though we are holding the project team's hands to the fire to still meet the deliverable of July 1st, we are going to hold that possibility for holding the mainframe still on for an extra month so that the auditor's office could complete their year-end processing, which will become very important to do that in the existing system so we don't have any hiccups. But as CTO and a member of that executive steering committee, I feel very confident that the project will be able to make their deadlines, even though QA is still showing them schedule red, looking at what the project is saying in the schedule and the manpower that exists today, and with holding the mainframe available that they can still pay out of their contingency money one extra month, I still think we'll be successful. Any additional questions on that? Finally, we come to the last report. This is on the payment card industry and payment gateway. You might note that we've kind of divided this project into two components. The payment gateway is an existing system that we have grown internal to the city. It brings in about $158 million today. It's projected to bring in about $200 million over time. We are looking at outsourcing that gateway to the NIC Corporation. They competed with an RFP. So here's the information from the TOC. The city is required to meet payment card industry data security standards as part of a merchant services contract, as required by card networks Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, and JCB International. The city does not currently meet PCI 3.0 standards and is required to remediate the card processing environment or adopt other means of processing card payments to ensure the city is compliant by December 31st, 2015. Major accomplishments this quarter, three things. PCI stakeholders were reviewing options available to meet the PCI compliance. Secondly, the payment gateway assessment was completed. And third, the contract being negotiated was under work. Upcoming milestones for the next quarter, the chosen project quality assurance will be aboard the project. In fact, we've actually selected Case Associates as the quality assurance. They've completed a contract negotiation. Well, actually, they're still in contract negotiations. And then create a test environment for the project, and then develop an application integration strategy. From the risk and concerns from TOC, the timeline is extremely short between now and the end of December 2015, and the TOC dashboard will begin to show the QA reporting in your next reporting cycle. Today, we don't have a dashboard for it. QA's been on board for about a week now, Case and Associates, but you'll have that in the next segment.
Yeah, talk about a project with a hard deadline. I mean, this is when we've got to meet, so.
Yes.
Actually, just to spell that out, Ben, I mean, does that mean that if we do not meet that deadline, then in January 1st, 2016, people will not be able to use their credit cards to make transactions with the city of any kind?
Commissioner Novak, it does not mean that, but there is a risk of that. And to that end, we do have our treasurer, Jennifer Cooperman, in discussions with our bank on a regular basis to give them progress reports of where we are. We've also brought in a QSA auditor to help us anticipate the kinds of things that could go wrong to make sure we're pointing in the right direction. And so worst case, we would ask for an extension We are not at that point now because we have all hands on deck trying to meet that deadline.
Okay. No other questions?
That's my
sounds like.
report.
Thank you very much for your report. And Ben, we're going to miss you in your new private sector chapter of your career. We appreciate your great service here.
Thank you.
I just want to echo that, and I don't know if people know this, but Ben started out as a member of the Technology Oversight Committee. He was my nominee and rose to Chief Technology Officer. We appreciate all the service you've provided, and you've really brought a good shape and rigor to these reports, too, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Salzman.
Is it fair to say we'll be thinking of you every time we hear something hovering above our homes?
Unmanned aerial vehicles, yes.
Let me echo what Dan says. We've had the pleasure of, I think 3 of us have probably had the longest service with you in this position, and it's been a sea change, really, in how the council gets information and does its job of oversight, and you've been a terrific colleague as well. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Commissioner Fish.
We spend the world never out of applause.
Let's hear it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both. We'll see if there's any public testimony on this report.
We had one individual
Okay.
sign up, Charles Johnson.
Good morning.
Yes, for 20 more minutes. Good morning. I'm Charles Johnson, and obviously with 5 varying budget projects, we can't really comprehensively address them, maybe even the time that was taken. I do think that, anybody with the patience and fortitude to listen through what was presented is disappointed that there's a lack of specifics about dollars. Now, I realize that we're dealing with a complex process here where long ago, or not so long ago, there was a RFP and a bid and competitive contractors, and some of those contractors might be doing better work than the people that won the bids. But I think that even though we're just getting a secondhand summary of the report from the CTO, in the future, especially on projects that are having serious challenges like ITAP, taxpayer and citizen confidence would be increased with hearing some specific numbers and hearing about re-engagement with what might be sour grapes losing bidders who would come back and say, I told you so. And procedurally, we need to look at how did we end up in an all-red project, and what steps are being taken to really talk about, this really wasn't the place for it to happen, but I'm concerned that nowhere in the review chain are the nuts and bolts things saying, wow, how did we screw up ITAP so bad, to be so red, to eat up so many city staff hours, and how do we make sure that never happened? That's really what the citizens want this presentation to be about. So I hope that in the future, this is a quarterly process, correct? So, I have great gratitude for the 5 CTO people. I think that they should also be mentioned, and I thank especially Dr. Wilfred Pinfold, who maybe can get us an deal on some Intel products. The federal government has recently told Intel you can't send 20,000 Xeon processors and 5 co-processors to China, so maybe we can get some in-house architecture. And also thanks to Ken Neubauer, Diana Garcia, Joshua Mitchell, and Colleen Gadboy, the people that you all have nominated. And I hope that there'll be email communication between more citizens and yourselves to get some real data other than just sad, red, and I shouldn't be all negative. I mean, we have the affordable housing thing that was a successfully completed project, but then we need to talk about how much resources went into managing a tragically static affordable housing situation. We can't have a static affordable housing situation when we have a growing population of poor people. So affordable housing software that manages the static population of people who are stuck in a static number of units isn't really that impressive. But the main issue that I want to bring forth is that the report lacked specifics about numbers and dollars, and I realize that there are private not behind the scenes, but other public open meetings where these things may come up. I think that citizen confidence in this process would be improved by having specific numbers of hours of overrun turned into dollars mentioned when we talk about especially problem projects, ITAP, and hopefully other projects that came in well under budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, any further council discussion?
Move to adopt the report.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Fish.
Thanks again for an excellent report. It is actually a very detailed and specific report, including budget numbers. And most importantly, it's a chance for the council to get information in a public forum. And I think it's actually meeting the expectations of its authors in providing more transparency and oversight on our technology projects. Obviously, how we use this information, which is not typically the purpose of this forum, is where we can demonstrate to people that armed with the information, we can continue to improve in how we manage technology. But technology is a very challenging thing, and I want to especially mention to Commissioner Saltzman, I know something about the Affordable Housing Software Implementation Project, how complicated it was, particularly because of the consolidation of employees from PDC and BHCD. That was enormously complicated, and congratulations for bringing that home. And I think this is such a vast improvement for what we had before. Sometimes when we make changes in how we do our business and we're criticized, it brings to mind the old adage, compared to what? And I think we always have to compare it to something, because it's just all too easy to complain. And this system is much better than it used to be, and it gives us information to do our job better. And for that, I'm grateful for everyone who puts their time and energy behind it. Aye.
Saltzman.
Well, I want to thank the Technology Oversight Committee for a very thorough report, and thank them, all 5 of them, for their dedicated service to our city. Thank you. Aye.
Novick.
Many thanks to the committee. Thanks to Ben and the team for the report. Aye.
Fritz.
Thank you to the Technology Oversight Committee, particularly my newest appointee, Diana Garcia, who was very excited to join, and also to Ben Berry, who's done an amazing job first as a member of the TOC and since for quite some time as the Chief Technology Officer. You know, with the ITAPS project has had significant oversight, first from Commissioner Saltzman and now from me. It has an excellent team in the Bureau of Development Services, and I greatly appreciate Rebecca Sponsel and Paul Scarlett for their oversight. When the contract chose the premier vendor nationwide, and then that vendor recognizes that all 17 of its staff needed to be replaced, then that does indicate that it's not the city's fault that this project is now in red. So we need to rebaseline and set a realistic schedule, which we're going to do. Unfortunately, the next quarterly report, it'll still show red because we won't have done that yet. So just look forward to that. And we are on the right track. Many of the indicators that Rebecca is giving weekly reports to the vendor as to what they've accomplished, what they have not accomplished. As I mentioned, we're getting excellent support from my colleagues and from the other bureaus on making sure that our staff are doing the work that they need to do. The Bureau of Development staff, in addition to the ITAP staff that are specifically assigned, we have project experts who, in addition to the amazing volume of new work that's coming in, they're putting in, giving us their expertise. So we're certainly got metal, or whatever the analogy is. We're working really hard on this and giving it the time and attention it deserves. And I'm hopeful that we are on the right track now. So thank you, colleagues, for all of your careful questions and for your partnership on this. Aye.
Hales.
You know, we're trying with greater use of performance measurements and dashboards, and now this kind of careful, disciplined reporting to be actively managing how things are performing, whether it's the services that we're delivering or the cost of a project or the cost of a program. And I think the more we develop those habits, the better we are. I mean, audits are fine, but audits are always after all the wreckage or glory has settled. And that's why it's really important that we do this on an ongoing basis. And I appreciate, Ben, that you've taken this approach. I think it's healthy for us. And again, thank you for great work and wish you Godspeed and good luck in your next venture. Aye. Okay, let's move on to item 398.
$398, authorize city to place in Pioneer Courthouse Square from May 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2016, a temporary freestanding sign with countdown clock donated by Tracktown USA for the International Association of Athletics Federation World Indoor Championships, Portland 2016.
Commissioner Fritz?
Thank you, Mayor Hales. Commissioner Saltzman and Commissioner Fish may remember my passionate negative attitude to waiving the sign code for the Rose on the Rose Festival building in Waterfront Park. However, this is a temporary sign, which I am very proud to be bringing to you to get authorization to place this sign in Pioneer Courthouse Square, which, as we know, is a Portland Parks and Recreation Park and has been for the last 30 years. Portland was awarded the 2016 World Indoor Championships for the International Association of American, what does IAAF stand for?
International Athletic, sorry, I'm going to lose one. Amateur Athletic
We're going to have
Foundation.
experts who will tell us that later.
Yes.
I
Amateur.
apologize, though,
It was
because I
the
really try
amateur word.
to not use acronyms. And that's coming next year. And so Director Paul Scarlett is going to start us off with the details of this ordinance and then introduce our panel of speakers.
Okay. Try to find my talking points here. Don't want to use the wrong acronyms either. Okay, Paul Scarlett, Director for Bureau of Development Services. Thank you, Commissioner Fritz. It is also a pleasure for me to introduce this item. As Commissioner Fritz has already stated, this is an exceptional opportunity for Portland, the sports community, and the public at large. This has been a collaborative effort with Commissioner Fritz, Mayor Hales' office, and consultant Doug Oblitz, and Tracktown USA President Vin Lanana, and they'll be up to provide more information. The reason for the ordinance is due to the many technical challenges embedded in the city's sign and zoning codes for installation of this temporary countdown clock. The open space zoning of the Pioneer Square has specific restrictions regarding digital signage, the countdown clock portion of the sign, the total sign area, and the height of the sign, as well as the requirements to be processed through a land use process. Excuse me. Doesn't help to not have all my pieces. Okay, excuse me. So given the temporary nature of the sign, I support the proposal to construct this highly visible countdown clock to be located in the square where many civic engagements occur. The clock will be promoting a worldwide recognized track and field event hosted by the City of Portland in less than a year, and it is in the public interest, I believe, to waive the application of the identified sign code and design review requirements in this particular situation. On a personal note, before I move on, I do want to share that in addition to my dedicated public servant involvement, track and field is another one of my passion. Both I ran in college. I'm currently a coach, and express my appreciation for Commissioner Fritz's support to allow me to do that. Commissioner Hill, or Mayor Hills, excuse me, you did that as well when you had the Bureau, and Commissioner Saltzman. And so over the years, I've been a sprint coach first at St. Mary's and now currently at Central Catholic. So I guess, I'm trying to contain my excitement. I'm very excited about this event coming to Portland, and so, of course, just want to share that as well on a personal side. So I will now turn it over to Tim Herron, Senior Planner, who has been working closely with Doug Oblitz to describe the regulatory process that got us here. Thank you.
Paul's personal comment reminded me of my dad, who, of course, then reminded me that it's the International Amateur Athletics Federation. My dad was also a runner, so
Oh, wonderful.
it's a personal attachment that I have to this particular project. Tim?
Thank you. Tim Herron, Bureau of Development Services. I think Paul almost jumped out of the blocks a little too early.
I can still hang for a little bit.
Tracktown USA is led by President Vin Lanana and by lead consultants Doug Oblitz of Shields, Oblitz Johnson, issued a request for proposals of 34 local firms for the freestanding sign to be designed, fabricated, and installed using, as mentioned, local and creative fabrication talent. The final design, which we'll explain further today, is proposed to be in the square. It's the heart of downtown Portland. It's our living room, as you all know, and probably the most suitable location in the city of Portland for this world-class event. The Countdown Clock in Pioneer Square will call attention to the upcoming world-class track and field event. We expect thousands of people to participate and attend this event, and it is certainly an appropriate location given the civic nature and mission of Pioneer Courthouse Square. So without further delay, I would invite Vin and Doug to tell us about the event, its history, and the sign.
Thank you both. Come on up, please. Mr. Mihalik with you if you'd like. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Let me first of all introduce our people who are with us here today, and we appreciate the time that you'll hear and you have dedicated to us. On my left is Drew Mihalik of the Oregon Sports Authority. To my right is Doug Oblitz. We additionally have other members of our team that are seated behind me. Sasha Spencer Atwood. She's an Oregonian, and actually she's the one who probably knows the most about this because she actually competed in these events. Nick Thomas is here from Downstream, who helped design, actually did design it, and Joe Khalil from the Etzel Agency, which will help us with the activation of Pioneer Square. We appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about the event, the IAAF World Indoor Track and Field Championships, which will be held in Portland, March 17th through the 20th in 2016. In addition to that event, Portland has also been awarded the week before it, the 11th and 12th, the U.S. National Championships, which will be the place that the #1 team in the world will have their chance to select their team to compete in the World Championships 1 week later. The magnitude of Portland's hosting of the World Indoor Track and Field Championships in 2016 was really turned upside down this last week in Beijing when the state of Oregon was awarded for the first time ever in the United States the 2021 World Championships.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And as a result, Portland, Oregon, the entire state of Oregon will be on the world stage. Now, that's a really positive thing. And the thing that I want to talk about is we kind of double down on our bet because the world will be watching us as we host the athletes of the world, the best athletes in this great city in March of 2016. Before we go too far about talking about 21 or some of the other things, I'd like to give the commissioners and the mayor a little sense of what the last World Championships looked like in Poland.
There's no room. Look at this from McClory. This is a dominant piece of running by the American.
on a personal note, I've been a big fan of indoor track and field for a long time. Having grown up in the East Coast, there were about 15 to 17 of these meets that took place throughout the country. Every major city had an indoor track meet, including Portland, at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Madison Square Garden hosted 15,000 each year, and it was a phenomenal heyday for the sport of track and field. So we began to push for what would be the best international competition for the state of Oregon to host, because track and field is in the DNA of this state. We decided that the World Indoor Championships could be a great place, but with no indoor tracks anywhere on the West Coast, we had a challenge. We partnered with the USA Track and Field, which is the governing body for the sport, and we thought about what would be the great space to be able to host this great world-class meet. And we settled on the Oregon Convention Center because it provided a blank canvas for us to really build something special. As you've seen on that video that we showed you, we'll do it even better here in Portland. There's plenty of room for the state-of-the-art indoor track stadium and all the necessary amenities that we will need to host this event. We want to put thousands of fans on top of the action in a comfortable environment. So it all began with a visit to the mayor's office. And Mayor Charlie Hales and his staff immediately embraced the idea of putting together a bid to host the World Indoor Championships, and we're on our way. The mayor was instrumental in building a strong coalition of public and private support. We went on to Monaco, and we won the bid against Birmingham, England, which Birmingham had hosted, a very successful one, but we won the vote because people are anxious and they have an appetite for coming to the United States, and they were excited about what we talked about in terms of Portland. As a matter of fact, 27 members of 27 voted unanimously in November of 2013 to send the World Championships to Portland. We all agreed the beautiful, vibrant city, Oregon is a state that loves sport, and our citizens will provide a warm and welcoming spirit to the entire world. So we presented it, we won it, and we decided that we were going to make it the best ever. So we engaged upon several pillars, and two aspects that we believe will be really key will be the innovative approach that we'll take by building this brand new 200-meter track and building a state-of-the-art seating in the convention center for 7,400 people. We decided we would take a new innovative approach, and we'd take an event, the pole vault, which the United States, I think that I mentioned that the United States is the #1 team in the world. We also have the #1 pole vaulters, and we decided that we would take those pole vaulters on the world scale, and we would actually have them interact with the youth of the entire city of Portland, the state of Oregon, and the Northwest. So we will, in the Moda Center, host the pole vault on the 17th, and it will be preceded by an entire youth engagement where the best pole vaulters in the world will interact with kids right after their event, and they will compete before and after. We also decided, with 7,400 seats and the popularity of this event, that we would create a free public activation in Pioneer Square. Youth activities, opportunities to engage with the athletes, the medal ceremonies, which would be the first time the medal ceremonies, just as they do at the Olympic Games, where the athletes will be recognized and the national anthems will play. It'll be a large screen video board. We'll have entertainment. There'll be an opportunity for the public to connect to the event, even if they're not able to actually have access to the convention center. But the event in the Moda Center, the vault, will be a free event to the public. We want to show you a little bit, before I ask Doug to kind of hit some of the youth initiatives, I'd like to ask Joe Khalil from the Etzel Agency to give you an idea of what Pioneer Square will actually look like.
Thank you. I'll let you start. All right, thank you.
Good morning.
For those of you who've had the luxury and pleasure of going down to Eugene for the Olympic trials over the last two trials in 8 and 12, will realize that the same innovation that's being deployed now was deployed then. For the first time ever, a fan experience was created that was free to the public, and it created such a buzz and excitement in that city that I know Portland's going to embrace this in the same manner. So we'll take a quick look at a flyover of what our graphics folks have created. Oops. Sorry. Going to show me where this one is. I'm sorry.
So good, we needed to see it a second time.
It's got a good tune.
You wanted to hear that music again, didn't you?
There we go.
Okay, so this is a flyover dropping down into the heart of the city, as you all know. So coming from north to south, you can see what would be a replica track, a scaled replica track of what would be inside the convention center. So the public would see this, whether or not they are ticket holders. A large stage for entertainment and potentially viewing of some of those activations. As we sweep down the street, you'll see this clock that will be discussed momentarily in its placement as is proposed. So here we come up on it amidst the grove of flags representing the international competition. And so as we sweep across the center of the bowl, you can see that there's a high jump with the added element of creating the towers from the convention center as its bracings and some of the things that would direct the local audience that stumbles into the square as opposed to those who know about the event to give an indication that this amazing event is happening just a short distance away at the convention center. You can see as we sweep up that there's a gold and silver and bronze taking advantage of the existing architecture there where the medals will be awarded. And you can see a big grove of flags up on the entry level. There's, as has been used before, great elevated VIP experience up above. But in a sense, we just wanted to give you a look at what we're designing today with the hope that we can create this for the public come March of 2016 and what we know will be a very memorable experience for our citizens.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Now I'm going to ask Doug Oblis to come up and speak a little bit about one of the most important pillars of our organization, that is youth.
Members of the council, Doug Oblitz with Shields Oblitz Johnson. One of my many hats here is to help Tracktown USA develop and implement the youth engagement program, which is a very, very important part of this event. It's, as Vin mentioned, it's one of the pillars of the event, and we're setting out to engage and inspire a new generation of fans and athletes. This event provides the opportunity to inspire youth and to promote healthy lifestyles by showing the benefits of teamwork, passion, and excellence at the world level. We're going to stage a series of middle school and high school events in and around both of these championships. Middle schoolers will get a chance to run on the track at the convention center, and we're going to embed a number of relay races within the World Championship program for high schoolers from around the state, small schools and large schools alike. Vin also mentioned the high school pole vault event at the Moda Center. We'll have youth activities built into Pioneer Square. We're also going to be reaching out to underserved populations, particularly on Portland's east side, give them a chance to interact with track and field stars that will be coming to Portland for this event. And we're also going to make sure that youth with limited financial means can attend the events at the convention center. So with that, I want to just hand it off to Drew for a couple of quick comments from the Sports Authority.
Mayor Hales and fellow commissioners. The Oregon Sports Authority is a key partner with Tracktown USA for Portland 2016. As you've heard, this event's going to have a very large footprint at the Oregon Convention Center, the Moda Center, and Pioneer Square. We are engaged with Tracktown USA to implement the extensive youth engagement effort that will give middle schoolers and other high schoolers from around Portland and the state to be an integral part of this event. As you know, prior to this event, immediately prior to it, will be the U.S. Indoor Track and Field Championships, which means that for a 10-day period, Portland will be center stage in track and field for the entire globe. It's a real big deal. Our organization is just finishing up a third-party review of the financial impacts of this event. And I believe you have a handout that shows that the impact will exceed $24 million. And we've been involved with a lot of events. None of them matches up to the level of the economic impact of what we're about to see in January of 2016. It's going to be 20,000 hotel room nights, 200 countries represented, 140 million viewers worldwide, It's just going to be outstanding for the city of Portland, and our organization is proud to be a small part of it. And now I'd like to hand it over to Sasha Spencer Atwood, who herself was an elite track and field 400-meter champion, and she's going to talk to you next.
Thank you for having us here today. As you all know, Oregon has an incredible legacy related to track and field. We think of names like Steve Prefontaine and the Bills, as we affectionately refer to them, Bill Bowerman, Bill Dellinger, and Bill Hayward. And honestly, Vin Lananna will come to be mentioned among those iconic coaches from Oregon as well. There are athletes like Mac Wilkins and Galen Rupp and Ashton Eaton, who we're fortunate enough to have produced ourselves. And then you have some of the real stars of the sport who have chosen to call Portland their home because of the resources that we have to offer, the tremendous knowledge that we have, and the support of the community that surrounds them. For generations, Hayward Field in Eugene has been really the Wrigley Field or Fenway Park of the sport in the United States. And in 2016, we have a particularly impressive slate of events going on down in Eugene. The Prefontaine Classic, which is an annual event, the NCAA Championships, which Vin has worked very hard to place in Oregon and through 2021 as part of hopefully a more long-term plan. And of course, the United States Olympic trials. But really, the way we talk about it is that the road to Rio begins here in Portland with the World Indoor Championships. As someone who spent the majority of my professional career as an athlete traveling to these events around the world, winning this bid was very personal to me. Through my work with Tracktown USA, I have the opportunity to serve the sport that has meant so much to me. I started out at Benson High School with the Northeast Community Tracksters, and then I went to North Salem High School. My mother worked in the legislature for then Judy Bauman. So we moved down there, and then I went on to Georgetown University, and I chose Georgetown in large part because of an opportunity I had to travel there as a sophomore in high school representing Oregon and Oregon high schools and the excellence that we represent. I've been on a World Championships team, as Vin and Drew mentioned, and I can tell you that traveling around the world to different places, my impression of the cities and often the entire countries has really been colored by my experience at these track meets, both big and small. We know how to put on a track meet. You know, there's an oval and there's some stands and there's people, hopefully. But what really makes the experience of a track and field athlete and a visitor to these places are the things that go on outside of the competition. It's the Oregonians that they'll have a chance to interact with, the shops and the restaurants that they'll visit, and our community welcoming this countdown clock into really what is the heart of our city will go a long way to show them our enthusiastic hospitality. I hope that as these initiatives and requests come across your desk, you'll see more than just proposals. I hope you'll see athletes like me, little girls who started out visiting the Moda Center or the Oregon Convention Center, seeing the stars of their dreams. Thousands of people who are global citizens who will leave here and travel throughout the world and tell other global citizens about the places they've been and speak as fondly about Portland and the time they have here as I still speak about places I had the opportunity to visit. I'm excited about this for personal reasons. I'm excited to invite my colleagues and my friends to my city and my state, and for most of them, it will be perhaps the only time they have a chance to visit the United States. I want to send them home to their respective countries and communities talking about Portland the way that I talk about the places I've visited and reflecting on the experience that the sport has given me.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Mayor, I have just one question for this panel, and that is, what world, for those of us who don't know the sport as well as you do, what world records might fall at this event?
Well, I'm hesitant to make predictions, but I would say that we have a good chance of Ashton Eaton, who is from Oregon, went to the University of Oregon, who currently holds the world record in the heptathlon, and he and his wife, Breanne Tyson, competing for different countries, but married, and the University of Oregon is going to recruit their firstborn. But I would say that But I will say that.
Football or track?
Track, for sure. And I think that's certainly a good possibility. The good possibility that the pole vault could potentially be a world record on both the men's and the women's side.
Is that because we'll have the very best of the best?
We'll have the best and the best. And that's an opportunity. That pole vault is a great opportunity because in the Moda Center, high school kids will see that, see their role models, see them as as Sasha referenced, their opportunity to be inspired and to conceive their dreams. It's a pretty exciting opportunity. So certainly a handful of them.
Great. Other questions?
So before we close on this, I mean, I think that the piece that we came here to talk to you about today was the clock. And this is a great opportunity for Portland to really embrace this event. Other cities that have hosted this event, Budapest, Sevilla, Barcelona, Lisbon, Moscow, Doha. So it's incumbent upon Portland to knock it out of the park. And our guy who'll take us up to bat is Doug Oblitz, who'll talk about the clock.
Sasha's a pretty tough act to follow here. Real quickly, we just want to give you a little background on the clock. The use of countdown clocks is a pretty typical device that's used around the world for Olympic Games and competitions of this sort. But we set out to do something different, to make it uniquely Portland, uniquely Oregon, and something that would perhaps break the mold. We went out into our creative community, which is considerable here in Portland, and laid out some objectives, particularly the idea of having a fully functioning timepiece that would be a signature element and that needed to operate for 300 days prior to the event, call attention to the event, but also be an intriguing landmark within the downtown environment both day and night. We also designed the clock so it could be used in the future for future events and not just be a one-shot element. We went out into the creative community. 34 firms initially expressed interest. We received 6 detailed proposals and eventually decided upon Downstream as our vendor for this. And Nick Thomas from Downstream is here if there are any specific questions. This really will be an exciting element in downtown. What we're particularly excited about, and I have to compliment Commissioner Fritz and Paul and Tim for pushing us in the right direction here. There is a possibility that an element like this can end up being like a NASCAR car full of logos. This one will not. The City of Portland will be the key sponsor of this clock, and in fact the only sponsor on the clock. And I think as you'll see these images, you'll see that Portland is going to be pretty much the feature of the clock, and a social media boon will follow. So I'm going to ask Tim to kind of, with my help, we'll show some images and give you a sense for how this works.
So Tim Herron, so my role is really more the technical code analyst guy, and basically work through the ordinance very closely with the city attorneys and with the team, articulating exactly where and how the signage on the sign would be applied. The ordinance walks through that. The city will have ownership of the sign. It is a temporary sign. The changing image portions of the sign is strictly limited. And with that, the ordinance came into play because of the changing image particularly. It's prohibited in open space zones. So the ordinance allows us to waive Title 32. The timing of the event and the other limitations for signage in open space zones, including height, total sign area, were also limiting factors. So combined with that, we also waived Title 33, which has to do with the design review requirement, as well as some of the signage restrictions that come with changing image, height, and total area. So Doug, if you just want to click, this is the location you've seen by that amazing flyby, which I saw for the first time as well. It was very nice. One of the particular features, as I joked with Director Scarlett, was this will have starting blocks built into the base of the sign. There is obviously the promotional opportunity and photo op at these locations, not just for the youth, as it were. Next slide.
So child that's in, the person that's actually on the sign, that's not a part of the sign. It's
Correct.
a person posing with the sign.
That will be you.
You are here, yes. And then some aerial views, and then we could go probably to these you have in your package, just examples of some of the graphics, and then the final.
Yeah, this one actually shows hot off the press, the updated graphics. The sprinter that was shown in the original submission has now been replaced by the woman that's featured in the event logo. So this literally is where we're headed with the final design. We're not 100% there, but I think the team is really thrilled with how this sign has evolved, and the integration of both the event logo and the clock is nearly complete now, and we're very excited about the image that's been presented.
That image of the woman is a fixed image.
That's correct. So, Commissioner, the image of the woman is the image that faces the 6th Avenue side, and the moving image, which is the countdown clock, is on the Pioneer Square Plaza side.
And then the only moving images on that will be the clock?
That's correct.
Okay. No advertising?
No.
Okay.
What you see is what you're going to get.
Okay.
I'm particularly pleased with the image of the woman who, like Sasha, runs like a girl.
Absolutely. We are too. We're really thrilled.
A very powerful girl. Lovely.
In closing, we would like to make sure that you put on your calendars May 27th, when we will be unveiling the clock. There's an event that will start about 4:15 p.m. in the square, and we'll be getting invitations to each of you to come down and enjoy our 300-day out event, which will feature a number of activities, but most particularly the unveiling of this incredible clock.
And colleagues, if you look at that, those images, and picture the children and adults who are going to be in the starting blocks every time somebody's taking a picture of them, Portland, Oregon. So it's really branding our city, and it's going to be a very fun addition to Pioneer Courthouse Square. For those fiscally responsible folks, they will be paying rent to Pioneer Courthouse Square, as do other users of the square, such as the food carts. And so all of these events are cost-effective for the Portland Park. And I very much appreciate that, too.
Coach, I just had a question so the record would be complete. We don't often get track stars who come to this body. And my guess is that Ms. Spencer Atwood is very modest. Could you tell us again what her particular specialty was in track?
Well, I'm going to do it better. I'm going to do one better and have Sasha come up and tell you her PRs. There you go. I'll verify if they're accurate.
I believe I'm still the Oregon State record holder in the women's 400 meters. I went on to run primarily the 800. Well, I ran the 4 and the 8 in college, and I ran the 800 primarily professionally for Nike for 8 seasons. The man next to me is very used to hearing the words yes, and I maintain the distinction of being one of the people who told him no. I was 17 when I first met Vin, and he recruited me to go to Stanford University. And I chose to go back east to run for his best friend at Georgetown. And there I was a 12-time NCAA All-American. I've been on this Indoor World Championships team and represented Team USA on a few other teams as well. The Olympic team I have not made, but I look forward to being able to support all of our athletes as they headed to the 2012 Olympic Games and on to Rio as well.
Wow. And what is an elite time in women's 800?
A really elite time is sub 2 minutes, really, in order to really be able to compete on the world stage. I mean, you have athletes who are running consistently in sub 158. Every season we get some 156s in there as well. So the United States has some big up and coming stars we're excited about.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please strike the part out about choosing Georgetown over Stanford.
Thank you all very much. Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you very much.
For your presentation.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on this item?
Move to a vote.
Anyone signed up? Okay, so we're ready to vote.
Mr. Lightning has requested to speak.
Lightning, come on, you got your shot. You have to run to get to the microphone on this item.
I absolutely approve of the clock being located at the Pioneer Courthouse Square. One of the things, I almost think this is going to be like an iconic clock, and I was wondering if that maybe the clock could end up staying there permanently and having just the time displayed, the regular time of day. So wanted that to maybe be looked into. I dealt with a gentleman many, many years ago who's deceased, Seymour Durst out of New York. Had a discussion with him. He had a national debt clock, which was by the Bryant Park that we were talking about, going from private to public type management. And I was always kind of upset that they didn't leave the clock in that location. I know one of his sons, Douglas, built a building on the edge of the park there. So sometimes some of these clocks are meant to remain in the location they're put at originally. So I wanted some thought to be put into that. And on the International Association of Athletics Federation, I definitely can't say anything negative about this. I have a relative who's been with Nike 25 plus years, one of the original employees there. So I definitely can't say anything bad about this for obvious reasons. So I definitely support this. Just real fast on the management of the park, Pioneer Courthouse Park Square there. It's my understanding that's managed by a nonprofit, so that's public and private. And I was wondering what their thoughts were on this at this time. I haven't heard anything from them. I understand you probably have a management agreement with them. Again, in the past, just real fast, we stated that Bryant Park was a private park, and I want to have a clear understanding on that, is that that's managed by a group that is still publicly owned. And we need to keep that clear, because a lot of times the public thinks that when you say it's a private park, somehow they have taken control of it in some type of ownership. That is incorrect. That's a corporation that has a management agreement on Bryant Park. So we need to keep that clear to the public, because when you say it's privately managed and controlled, they may think it's some type of private ownership. So I want to make that very clear on that. And just, again, I absolutely agree with this clock, and I hope it can remain for many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the Pioneer Courthouse Square Board has been consulted on this, and I think they're squared away on it, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, time to move to a vote on the emergency ordinance then, please.
Fish?
Well, first, Mayor and Gail, who did the heavy lifting at the short end and had to take the trip out to present. Congratulations. What a feather in our cap. Commissioner Fritz, thank you for bringing this forward and for shepherding this this ordinance. You know, when Drew and Doug come before us, you know there's always something good's going to happen. So thank you both for just being tireless cheerleaders for Portland and for sports. It was a thrill to meet Vin Lanana when he came to my office. Obviously, I know him by reputation, but we don't often have big-time track people in our building, so that was a thrill. And it's even a bigger thrill today to meet Sasha Spencer Atwood. And thank you very much for joining us. The other day I was having breakfast downtown, and a couple sat next to us at the Daily Cafe, and I had read the paper the day before and seen their picture. They were profiled. So I kind of elbowed the person I was with, trying to low-key it, and said, you know, that's the world's greatest athlete next to us, and she may be the second greatest, or they may together be the greatest athlete. And it was Ashton Eaton and his wife, just nonchalantly eating in Portland. And it was a real thrill, and I don't even understand track. I mean, I think if we did a celebrity 5K, there was no one up here who could actually do it, but we could test that. We could test that assumption.
Yeah.
It was very exciting, and it was humbling to have the greatest athlete in the world just there with his family fitting in. So we're honored to have this, and we really appreciate the mayor and his leadership. And just one last word about sport. My daughter is the person she is today because of sport, and it's where she learned all the great lessons. Her sport was soccer, and but she did not get a scholarship to college because of her sport. She got it because of all the ways it changed her life and made her a better person, and that's how she got a scholarship to college. So sport just changes lives in so many ways, and I guess you're a shining example of that. So honored to to join up what I guess will be a unanimous council in support of this worthy effort. Thank you. Aye.
Saltzman?
Well, this is a very exciting event. It's great for Portland, great for Oregon, as will be the World Championships in '21. That's an outstanding coup, Ben, so thanks again for your work on that. And this will be, I really look forward to this. Aye.
Novick?
I'm old enough to remember Steve Prefontaine. I lived in the Eugene area when he was active, and it's nice to be reminded that Oregon is still a track and field capital. And Sasha, I really appreciate your coming here because it makes the whole event much more real. And of course, it's always cool for us to have celebrities here. It was great when the Decemberists were here too. And also, I have to say that I won't complain about your spending time in Georgetown because I too spent a bunch of time in DC. So it makes me, your being here makes me feel like I'm part of a broader DC, Oregon fraternity and sorority. This is going to be a great event, and congratulations again to Gail and to the mayor. Thanks, Commissioner Fritz. Aye.
Fritz?
So this has been a very fun event. My father ran faster than Roger Bannister at one point. Of course, that was cross country, and Roger Bannister was good at running the mile, but that was one of his claims to fame. And I have track and field to thank for my dad coming to visit me every spring for the Shamrock Run and every fall for the Portland Marathon for many years. And he was and came for 2008 for the event in Eugene. So many fond memories, even though I don't even run for the bus. And I'm going to be doing a 5K in a couple of weeks, but that will be the walk for the NAMI organization here in Portland. I'm very, very pleased with this project. Thanks to Tim Heron and Paul Scarlett in the Bureau of Development Services, and to Doug Oblitz and the design team. Every time when it was put towards me, in front of me, and I said, well, what about this? And instead of, no, we can't do that, it was, oh, yes, we can do that. And then you continue to refine it and have really brought it to perfection at this point. So I very, very much appreciate it. It's going to be a lovely statue, a lovely sign, and interactive, not just to look at it, but play with it and play on it and really enjoy our great city and wonderful Pioneer Courthouse Square. So thank you to Doug Oblitz, Vin Lanera, Drew Mihalik, Alberto Salazar, who was also involved in making the event a reality, and Gail Shibley, who has been so involved in getting this sign moving forward too. So we very much appreciate your partnership with you in the mayor's office. It's going to be really fun. Aye.
Hales?
Well, thank you, Commissioner Fritz, and to the Bureau for helping get this really important precedential event set up, because this is really where the community, I think, is going to start to learn about this event and what a great thing it's going to be for Portland, or these two events really now, and what they will mean for Portland and for the state. I want to thank this whole team. We've all caught the enthusiasm of what you're about. I think that's going to build as that clock counts down. I think also, Commissioner Fish, this event, or these events, are going to build on the success that you helped engineer with the Major League Soccer event here, the championship here, because it showed the world that Portland really can put on a first-class international sporting event. And that was both a great success as a sporting event, but it was also a great success as a community event for a lot of people to literally enjoy our city at street level, just like they will in this case. So I think that started some momentum that this is going to accelerate. It's going to be great. I think you hear on this council a lot of commitment and excitement to make sure that it's all that it could be. So thank you for a great start. Look forward to the 27th. Aye. Good job. Okay, let's move on to the hold consent item, which 399.
Amend contract with Travel Portland to revise performance measures used in annual reporting of effectiveness of tourism and convention promotion activities and programs.
Okay, I think Lightning, you pulled this, is that right?
Who pulled it?
Do you want to speak on this item? Okay, sure, come on up and explain it to us, and then we'll give him a chance to testify.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Susan Hartnett, Spectator Facilities and Development Manager. Pardon my voice, I have a cold this morning. The item in front of you is a pretty simple contract amendment. It's our contract with Travel Portland for convention, tourism, and travel promotion, which is paid for by dedicated funds from the city's 1% transient lodging taxes, which are specified in the city charter. You may recall last July when Jeff Miller, President and CEO of Travel Portland, was here to give you the annual report for 2014, that he mentioned the desire to change the performance measures to update and upgrade them to tie them into an industry standard that they had begun to work with. At the time, you all indicated you were interested in seeing that change made. I was here and told you that it would require a contract amendment since the original contract and its attachment, which is what you're amending today, were adopted by council ordinance. So that's why it's in front of you today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. Thank you. Come on up and speak, Lightning.
My name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Watchdog X and also Lightning Housing X. One of the reasons why I pulled this item is that when we're always discussing tourism, just as this last resolution we discussed, it's a number that can be very interesting as far as where we can go with that, because there's really no limits on running the city more efficient on the amount of tourism dollars that can come in Portland. So just on these type of events that we were discussing in the convention center hotel and various things like that, it's an unknown, and we all know that it's going to be very beneficial. Now, one of the concerns I have is I want to have more studies on when we decrease homelessness through the city, what benefits is that going to be toward tourism? And we know there will be benefits, and we don't want to have conflicts between the two of them, but we know that if we can get some people into what's called affordable housing, tourism dollars are going to go up. We know that the businesses around the city their profits will go up. So we need to keep a close eye on that and keep coming up with a number to really decrease chronic homelessness through the city and look at the benefits by the data that we might show as far as on potential gains. Because, and I'm not talking only for the people, I'm talking through the whole city from an economic standpoint, but again, of course, from the social standpoint of the physical, mental health of the homeless and their longevity of life by having housing. And again, I've talked about that property over by United States Post Office building at 715 Northwest Hoyt. I'd like that to be looked at again on doing a project at the 30% MFI or lower. I want that to be designated at that income level for the most vulnerable people in this city. And I want to have an understanding that we can pay these projects off if we do them right with the increased revenue, such as from the tourism industry, such as from the businesses throughout the community showing increased profits, because we're running the city more efficiently and people are in housing being more productive and more healthier. And when you start calculating those costs, we can do a large-scale project and probably pay it off in a reasonably short time and have that longevity of housing for the most vulnerable people in the city. Again, I hope we look at that project that urban renewal dollars are thinking about purchasing, and we design it to benefit the people that need to be taken care of the most. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Let's take a roll call vote, please, on the ordinance.
Fish. Aye. Saltzman.
Aye.
Novick.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Hales.
Aye. All right. Regular agenda, item 406.
Accept bid of Emery and Sons Construction, Inc. for the Riverview Force Main replacement for $1,282,990.
Mr. Fish. No, I guess not. It's procurement. Never mind. But Christine is here.
Christine Moody, Procurement Services. You have before you a procurement report recommending a contract award to Emery & Sons Construction. The original engineer's estimate on this project was $1.9 million. On February 24th, 2015, 8 bids were received, and Emery & Sons is the low bidder at $1,282,990. The Bureau of Environmental Services has reviewed all bid items and accepts the price offered as good. The city identified 7 divisions of work for potential minority, women, and emerging small business subcontracting opportunities, and the participation on this project is at 42.1%. I'll turn this back over to council if you have any questions about the bidding process. And
Christine,
Dan?
one question generally.
Yes.
In this more robust market, we've been seeing prices sometimes come in above the engineer's estimate, just because there's a capacity question. Any thoughts as to why we got such a good price?
I can turn this over to Dan. I do have a thought in that, as council had asked last fall, the bureaus have really been working on updating and firming up their estimating. And so with the more robust market, they, and especially Environmental Services, has updated their pricing to be more in line with what's going on right now in 2015.
But we're still looking at about a 40% off of the engineer's estimate. Just if you know, is there any particular factor that explains why we got a good price?
Sure. I'm Dan Heber with the Bureau of Environmental Services. I'm the overall project manager on this project. I suspect the biggest factor on this is in our estimating and planning for this project. We anticipated that almost all of the work was going to be at night because of traffic control issues, and since it's in an ODOT right-of-way. And we tried to be conservative in our estimate, so we didn't want to be the low bidder in any case. So I suspect that's the biggest factor, and that there was more interest from the contractors. We had, 7 bids were received on this project. So I think the competition drove the price down below what we'd estimated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you very much. Anyone want to speak on this item? Then a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Fish,
Thanks again for your presentation and your good work. Aye.
Saltzman,
Aye.
Novick,
Aye.
Fritz,
Thank you. Aye.
Hales.
Thank you. Aye. Okay, 407.
407, grant a franchise to Quest Broadband Services, Inc., doing business as CenturyLink, to operate a cable system.
Thank you all for waiting. Welcome. We'll kick this off, Mary Beth or Sue?
Yeah, Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Mary Beth Henry, Staff Director for the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission and Manager of the Office for Community Media. With me is one of Portland's stellar citizen volunteers, Sue Disciple, who represents Portland on the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission, and Chris Denson and Jim Campbell of CenturyLink. We're pleased to be here for the first reading of the CenturyLink cable franchise. As FCC Chair Wheeler said last week, we recognize that broadband is the indispensable infrastructure of the 21st century economy and democracy. And in every study about economic development, the importance of broadband internet services is mentioned prominently. What a city does or does not do vis-a-vis broadband can in large part determine a community's success. The cable franchise represents a significant infrastructure investment in our community. As you'll hear shortly from Chris Denson, CenturyLink has already started deploying fiber to the home in Portland to prepare for launch of their cable TV service. We know that competition spurs network improvements and better customer service. Today, a typical family of 4 has 7 devices at home. We believe that by approving a second entrance into the marketplace, both the incumbent provider, Comcast, and the new entrant, CenturyLink, will rise to the challenge with network improvements and better service for our customers. The franchise requirements are commensurate with Comcast. And finally, Portland's broadband strategic plan calls for state-of-the-art fiber-to-the-home broadband. CenturyLink's commitment to deploy this infrastructure will help Portland achieve this goal. I have handed out the MHCRC resolution unanimously passed after a public hearing in January, and a side letter on PEG from CenturyLink. We have a couple of comments from my colleagues, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners, for taking the time to hear about our application or renewal of our video franchise we've had for a number of years. A couple of things I'll kick off, and then I'll walk you through a brief presentation about CenturyLink and our video product, and certainly happy to answer any questions you may have. After I'm done, I'll hand it over to Mr. Jim Campbell to my right. One, I wanted to thank Mary Beth Henry and the MHCRC and certainly the City of Portland for their time and efforts to negotiate with us in extension to our video franchise. It's been, again, a great process and a great partnership, I think, to get where we are today. From there, I would like to walk you through just a couple of elements about CenturyLink, so I'm going to use the presentation here. Just briefly about our company. Our company has grown significantly over the last 20 years. We've been in business for 75 years. We've had 3 CEOs in our entire history. So you have a significantly lengthy stability, our time of stability in our leadership. But the big thing for us is right now we are a top 3 communications company nationally. We operate in over 40 countries around the world. We have over 400,000 miles of fiber laid throughout this country and many others as well. We are a cloud provider, a data provider, a TV provider, IT services provider, and a voice provider as well. A couple of things we do have, we're bringing to the table with this video franchise is we spend about $3 billion a year in capital to invest in our communities. The second thing is we do have an innovation team and a technology team dedicated to improving and bringing this technology forward as well. And we do have experience, which I'll just show you in a moment, bringing video services to market in many different markets as well. Just briefly on the commitment to Oregon, over our history, 100 years in the state of Oregon, we've invested over $4 billion in the state. We have over 1,000 employees doing business in the state of Oregon as well. We bring in over $14 million or pay out $14 million in payroll, or excuse me, property taxes on an annual basis, and we also contribute about $88 million in annual salaries to the state of Oregon as well. To the more recent exciting news, again, I mentioned earlier, we do invest significantly in the state of Oregon. Last year, in this very building, I announced that CenturyLink was committed to building a fiber-to-the-home network in the city of Portland. That construction has taken place or has begun. You may see many of our trucks and employees laying fiber across the city of Portland. Very pleased where we are today, and that building is going to continue on for foreseeable future to get this in place as well. So very excited about what fiber to the home can bring, and Mary Beth Henry had just talked about what the future may hold. We do expect by 2020 that approximately 20 devices will be in home by that time. Quick history on our IPTV product Prism. We do pass over 2.4 million homes today in 15 different markets. We have about 250,000 customers nationally. In the last 2 years, we've launched new markets in Denver, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Phoenix, Arizona, and Omaha, Nebraska, and we would like to bring forward our Prism product into Portland, Oregon. Briefly, what is Prism TV and why is it different? As I mentioned earlier, our company has transformed over the last 20 years into a data and cloud provider. We have 59 data centers around the globe today. What that means for us is when we deliver video services, we deliver it over an IPTV platform. It's an IP-driven service. We use our fiber backbone to go ahead and deliver these services to the home. It is a two-way synchronous network that we use to deliver our video product as well. And it's also interactive, meaning that it's a cloud-based application. We can make changes, modifications, and updates real-time with the end user as well. It is also 100% digital, video quality and sound as well. It is not a traditional cable TV service as you may know it. It is an IP-driven service. Let me tell you what that means for the end user for a moment. A couple of key things. One is the wireless set-top box. As you know, many times we have to rewire a home with either Cat 5e or Cat 6 or other like higher bandwidth capable products. With a wireless set-top box ability, we don't have to rewire the entire home anymore. Customers can go ahead and pick up a box about yay size, move it to any room they'd like to go into, and also use our service as well. So they don't have to buy or pay for 4 or 5 set-top boxes anymore. They can simply pick one up and move it to another room. Secondly, we have an app center built into our product. With the app center, because again, we are a cloud provider, we can deliver applications right on the screen. We can update them at any given time. And it creates an experience with not only our company, but many other companies as well. On the far right-hand side, I just want to point out we are a whole home DVR leader. We are one of the companies who originated the product into the marketplace a number of years ago when we first launched IPTV service as well. I just want to point out a couple other features. Many of these features you're probably already familiar with, but the one I'm going to show you in just a moment is what's called multi-view or mosaic. The reason why this is important is when people want to interact with PEG or other sports channels or other entertainment packages, they can actually do that through a mosaic. So let me show you what that is. This is an example on the right-hand side of what a mosaic PEG distribution channel looks like. This is an example in Phoenix, Arizona. In this example, you can see on the left-hand column, you have multiple PEG channels being displayed simultaneously. The customer can then select on any one of them, make it the primary channel, but they can also watch the others real time as well. We do that not only with PEG, but we also do that with many other channel types as well, as you can see the sports one on the left-hand side. We do offer 5 packages today in our 15 markets. They are Prism Basic, Essential, Complete, Preferred, and Premium. Our rates do vary depending on what the promotional periods are at that given time, but channels starting as low as 20 channels in the Prism Basic plan, all the way up to 320 channels in Prism Premium plans. These are consistent throughout the country, and we don't price or make any changes by any specific market.
What does rack rate mean?
It just means your normal retail rate without any promotions. Let me just wrap up. In good faith, we've been negotiating an extension of our video franchise. We are committed to bringing video, a wired, wireline video broadband service to the city of Portland, and this will bring much needed competition to this area. As you know, there hasn't been a wired video competition or competitor in this market for its entire history, and this will be the first time we'll bring that forward as well. Secondly, this is an IP-driven product, video product, and it requires higher bandwidth speeds to make it work. For us to deliver IPTV video services, it requires a minimum of 25 meg broadband connection to make it happen. So hence our interest in building fiber to the home and expanding broadband services throughout the Portland and the region as well. We're in 15 markets right now. We have the technical team capable of doing this. We've demonstrated in 15 markets today. We're very successful doing it. We have a highly engaged technical team and innovation team as well. So we do have the experience to deliver this particular product. And lastly, we do think that everybody will benefit from having another wired competitor in the city of Portland. An FCC study about 5 years ago demonstrated that a second entrant will generally reduce rates by about 10% or more based on that particular study as well. With that, I want to turn it over to Mr. Jim Campbell for a few other closing comments.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, thank you very much. My name is Jim Campbell. I'm the Regional Vice President for Regulatory and Legislative Affairs, and I also negotiate franchises across the country for CenturyLink, and I'm very excited to be here today talking to you. I also want to thank Mary Beth for her work and her team working with my group to get this done, both at the commission level, and I embrace you, or commend you for embracing competition. As Chris said, this FCC study shows that incumbents generally behave a little bit better when there's a wireline competitor. I can tell you in the markets that we've launched in Phoenix and now Denver, and I'm actually a very happy Gig and Prism customer in the city and county of Denver, that we've seen pretty aggressive reaction from the incumbent. And that's the benefit that the citizens of Portland are about to experience. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of the franchise. As Mary Beth said, we worked long and hard to negotiate these terms and conditions. We're very excited to come here, and I certainly stand ready to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Great, thank you all. Questions for this panel?
I just had one question about the wireless component you were talking about. So at home, we have something above the TV, probably from a competitor, and it has about 6 different wires going out of it, and there's a warren of wires behind my my TV, and I'm always afraid someday there's going to be some problem because I don't know what goes where, and it's also a dust magnet. So you're saying this technology allows you to skip all those cords, and it just operates wirelessly?
Inside the home, we deliver one gateway-connected box through either a Cat5e or Cat6 connection. Beyond that, every other set-top box in the home is wireless. You can place it on any desktop, on your patio, and move it to any room you'd like. So yes, there would be no additional wires for any other room but one.
And is there any difference in the safety and security of the system, whether it operates wirelessly or whether it has a cable attached?
No, because the way we encrypt the information back into the set-top box, the gateway, it'll prohibit anybody from tapping into that particular signal. And again, the reach is not going to be that far beyond the perimeter of the person's home.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Other questions?
Actually, I've got a question. Could you send me a copy of that FCC study? Because it's always nice to see evidence that competition actually works.
Yes, we can. Absolutely, we'll get that too.
Applicable in a number of settings.
I believe Commissioner Disciple was going to do the closing remarks.
Okay, Sue, you're on.
So in the interest of time, I've edited my remarks because I think a lot of what I had to say was covered, and that's great. But I did want to just say, and for the record, I'm Sue Disciple, and I'm one of 3 representatives of the City of Portland to the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission. And we have conducted a public hearing on this franchise in January. The commission voted unanimously in March to recommend approval of the franchise to the City Council. You may remember that we've had a cable franchise with the predecessor of CenturyLink, Qwest, since 2007. So we have been anticipating that at some point we would have wireline competition for cable services here in Portland, and it looks like the day has come. So we are very gratified to be here today. We think competition is going to be great for Portland, and the MHCRC would like to recommend this franchise to the city. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Did we get any objections to this? I mean, I'm looking in my packet. Do we have any official objections that were lodged to this action or concern raised?
There were some concerns raised by the incumbent cable operator, Comcast, and I did respond in detail to all of those concerns and provided copies to all the council offices, and then did some briefings with council offices, and as far as I understand, we're good.
Commissioner Fitch, I would like to say to that point that the commission did spend quite a bit of time addressing Comcast concerns, which we took really seriously. But we determined that the franchise has adequate build-out provisions and stage gates that really give parity to Comcast. And also the examples that Comcast cited in other cities, we found that actually upon analysis, our franchise was even more stringent. So we thought that the concerns raised by Comcast, while legitimate concerns, we thought were very well addressed in the franchise, and that was part of the unanimous acceptance of the franchise by the MHCRC.
Without getting into any of the specifics of any concern that's raised, just for our purposes, are we offering any term or condition or benefit to Qwest, DBA, CenturyLink that we would not offer to any other competitor?
No, we definitely would offer this same package to any competitor that wants to come into Portland.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else that's signed up to speak on this item?
I did not have a sign-up sheet.
Want to speak?
Oh, okay.
Come on up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Bea Coulter, Acting Executive Director of Portland Community Media. We manage the PEG services for Portland. Portland Community Media strongly supports the City of Portland's grant of franchise to CenturyLink. The public benefit provisions secured in this franchise support PCM in our efforts to connect marginalized populations to the digital world that is leaving them behind. It ensures that the Portland community has access to commercial-free cable channels, digital content creation training, and access to technology that allows them to have a voice in the community, stay current on local issues, and stay connected to their local government. It also creates an environment of real competition for cable services in Portland. Competition breeds innovation and improvements in customer service. And competitive pricing will enable more community members to get connected at a price that is affordable, ultimately bringing new customers online. It's good for Portland. This could not happen without the smart, thoughtful, and caring people that work in your Office for Community Media and who volunteer on the Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission. They have stewarded these processes for years on behalf of the city, securing exceptional benefits for the city of Portland. Thank you.
Thank you. A good reminder of what the benefits we obtained from those franchise fees and from this whole system. Thank you very much. Questions? Well, thank you all. Sue, to you and the other volunteers that serve on the commission, we really appreciate your service. It's another case where our volunteer citizen commission and a capable staff are getting to a good result and negotiating something that's really important to the whole community. So thank you for good work. This will return for second reading next week. Thank you. Okay. 408.
Authorize a contract with Analytical Services, Inc., not to exceed $1,200,000 for intake compliance monitoring, and a contract with Scientific Methods, Inc., not to exceed $300,000 for tributary stream monitoring in support of maintaining the Bull Run Treatment Variance Program.
Fish.
The hearing is gone late today, David, so I will dispense with my introduction, introduce David Schaff, the Bureau Director, and ask you to make an economical introduction.
Good afternoon. I'm David Schaff, the Director of the Water Bureau. With me is Ann Richter, the LT2 Treatment Variance Program Manager. I actually think the ordinance probably speaks for itself. You know, we have a variance that allows us to avoid building another treatment plant at Bull Run. It requires us to do regular water sampling. That type of water sampling for cryptosporidium has to be done by an EPA-certified lab. Our lab that we were using last year closed shop. We had an emergency ordinance in front of you last year that covers us through June of this year. We have put the work that will need to be done, 2 divisions of work out to bid, and this ordinance is intended to award contracts to 2 different companies that will do both divisions, or each will do a division of work, but we've set it up so that if either one of them is no longer able after we've started to comply with their contract, the other can pick up that division of work. So we'll try and avoid getting into the position we were in last year with having to scramble to replace a lab that had shut down. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
What did he miss?
Excuse me?
What did he miss?
He got it all.
All right. Questions? Apparently not. Thank you both.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak on this item? If not, it moves to second reading next week. Item 409, second reading.
Extend real property lease for Portland Children's Levy staff offices in the Spalding Building, 319 Southwest Washington Street.
Assume the questions got resolved, so we can.
Yeah, I just want to have a short statement. I hope to get council support allowing me to execute the lease for the office space for the Children's Levy and the Spalding office building. The Spalding building is where the levy has worked diligently for the past 10 years. It supports the city's policy of being tenants in a registered historic building. I support responsible working conditions for those that work in buildings in Portland. And my office has been in contact with SEIU Local 49 regarding the conditions in the Spalding building. And these conditions will be a consideration as I execute this lease. So I appreciate your support.
Mayor, this is somewhat unusual. It's a second reading, but I appreciate the courtesy that Commissioner Saltzman extended to me and the council to set this over a week. And I've had a chance to get a briefing, and I fully support the contract before us.
Okay, great. Roll call then, please.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Novick.
Very glad to hear that Commissioner Saltzman is talking to SAU 49 about this issue about working conditions. So thank you very much. Aye.
Fritz.
Yeah, I appreciate taking an extra week to satisfy your colleagues' concerns. Aye.
Hales.
Aye. And 410.
Approve the purchase of 10,000 square feet of land at Northwest Raleigh Street and Northwest 14th Avenue for approximately $1,300,000 using proceeds of River District Urban Renewal Area Tax Increments Financing, and approve the First Amendment to the amended and restated agreement for development between Hoyt Street Properties LLC and the city.
Commissioner Salzman.
I'll turn it over to Director Tracy Manning and Assistant Director Javier Mena. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Commissioner, Council. With me is Assistant Director Mena and also Barbara Shaw. Those two really helped shepherd this project through to where it is today. So this is an opportunity to acquire Pearl District land for affordable housing development. It is the result of the 1999 development agreement between the city and Hoyt Street Properties. That development agreement covered a whole bunch of goals and commitments for the 34-acre Hoyt-owned area in the central Pearl District. That included the streetcar, it included parks, roads, and housing. So the goals for affordable housing targeted 35% of the total housing developed for households earning less than 80% of median income, including 15% of all housing for households at 0 to 50% MFI. Today, as we all know, there's a thriving community in the area with stores, offices, roads, great transportation and parks, and it includes some wonderful affordable housing at the Sitka Apartments, Pearl Court, and in under construction Abigail Apartments. In fact, during the term of the agreement, we had 727 affordable units developed. Regarding the terms of the agreement, as of September 14th, 2014, the city provided notice that 30% of all newly constructed units in the area were affordable under the development agreement defined terms. Therefore, the 35% affordability goal had not been met. And I'm going to ask Javier to walk us through the steps that the city and Hoyt Street took to remedy the situation.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Javier Mena at the Housing Bureau. In accordance to the development agreement provisions, both Hoyt and PHP agreed that they would move forward on the DA-provided process for curing the shortfall of affordable units. Under the development agreement, Hoyt was allowed to designate a parcel that the city could purchase for a price determined through a 6-step, 6-month valuation process involving 3 appraisers. Using the formula in the development agreement to arrive at the purchase price and parcel size, and with some additional concessions from Hoyt, the city now has the opportunity to buy a 10,000 square foot parcel in the corner of Northwest Valley and Northwest 14th for a price of $1.3 million, which is 13% below the market value. In terms of the next steps, PHP is doing some preliminary work to determine exactly what will be developed. We're currently working with Commissioner Salzman's office on the priorities, and it looks like the project could include family-size units for very low-income families. Although Hoyt has agreed to extend the start of the construction time limit to 3 years to cover any unforeseen contingencies, PHP intends to, in late May, early June, issue a public solicitation for the developer and plans to start construction within the timeframe originally required. And the project, once we are ready, will come back to City Council for River District TIF funding authorization in 2016.
Javier, could you remind us, within the River District, what are the specific goals that we have to adhere to for that site in terms of affordable housing?
There are certain CCNRs that are required, and I don't have the specifics as to what they are, but we have to be within those requirements. That's about it.
But in addition to the income range, so since we're using TIF, we're talking about targeting families below 60% of MFI. Do we have, within the River District guidelines, specific priority groups that we are targeting for housing? So individuals, families, older adults, or whatever. Have we got specificity like we have in some other districts?
The River District guidelines don't call out a number of different priorities. I think working with Commissioner Saltzman's office, some preliminary discussions with Home Forward, it is our hope and belief that very low-income families would be a great addition to that neighborhood.
And Tracy, how do you prioritize low-income families over low-income adults or formerly homeless or whatever? You have a substantial need Is that a priority that has been established within the urban renewal district by the council through reset or through some other process?
So certainly with Commissioner Dan Saltzman, but also in addition with Home Forward. So their Board of Commissioners has prioritized both very low-income families as well as that are in the central city. So, what we've come to call opportunity areas, so that children will have opportunities to go to some of these great schools, parks, transportation, experience all that district has to offer. I would certainly be loath to choose among our tremendous needs in total, but that for this project, for this district, that's certainly something that's come up quite a bit.
Since you mentioned Home Forward, is that because you expect to be able to put some project-based Section 8 into this development to subsidize the rents?
We've certainly had preliminary conversations with them about that, and I feel hopeful, yes. It meets, very strongly meets their stated goals for project basing Section 8.
Other questions? Thank you both very much. Does anyone want to speak on this item?
I showed two people signed up, Lightning and Barry Joe Stoll.
Okay, come on up.
Thanks. Good afternoon, Barry Joe Stoll. I think that honoring the commitment, including buying this property, is a good sign from the city of Portland, which my informants tell me has an absolutely horrendous record regarding affordable housing and holding landlords, which typically have more money than tenants, accountable. We know that the planned housing for the South Waterfront was absolutely, the affordable housing was dismal. I think the city's performance on that project was something like the 30% or in that neighborhood of what was actually promised back in the day. I thought it was kind of ironic when I saw that this piece of property is 10,000 square feet. That's 100 feet by 100 feet. I've been long complaining about the vacant affordable housing with the city's partner, Portland Community Reinvestment Initiatives, and I'll stand by my assessment that that's Organized Crime Commissioner Fish, as I said in January. And I would appreciate that you don't snipe at us public speakers when we present information and we leave the microphone. It's not so you can shoot at us like fish in a barrel. I've done my homework, and I know that your plan, of course, is welfare for the rich. That's why the Zidell property is one of your projects. So I realize we have a housing crisis. We're missing somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 to 40,000 units of affordable housing in this metropolitan area. And it's because we simply don't construct it. And when we have promises, the city of Portland doesn't keep them. And when the landlords or the developers don't do what they promised, the city lets them get away with it. And I believe today 4066 Northeast Grand Avenue, named after Gretchen Gafuri, is still vacant. And that's affordable housing on our affordable housing stock that the state of Oregon has listed. But I think there should actually be people living in that affordable housing. So if there's a plan to build on this property, let's have it soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Lightning.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Watchdog X and Lightning Housing X. I'm glad to see on this transaction that appraisers have been used. Again, from my position, I also like to have licensed brokers. The reason why I like that is to have kind of a separation between various people from the city and also have a licensed broker that can lose their license, and they also have E&O insurance in the event they make a serious mistake, and we end up suing them on prices. So that's why I like to have brokers involved. They're very aware of the risk, and they do a lot of homework and a lot of data to minimize that risk. Another issue I saw recently was on a transaction that they came back and had a broker come in, and they made an additional $2+ million on the transaction. I want to start watching again these properties very close and make sure that we do obtain the highest values on these properties. I understand, again, this is within a reasonable market range. Again, I want to make sure that funding goes back within the city, the Bureau, the general fund. My understanding, with a little bit of research, you do have the discretion from the commissioners and the mayor to determine on certain sales where that funding can go upon your approval. Now, that's my understanding. I've been told state law prohibits that. I'd like that to be researched a little bit more. Again, I just want to have the ability to see money go back to certain areas if necessary, such as on deferred maintenance on other properties, deferred maintenance and transportation, just areas that can benefit the services of the city. And I'd like to have a little bit more restrictions on any donations. I don't think we're a foundation at this city. I don't think we have extra money to be donating. I'd like to have individuals from the outside, nonprofits, go to foundations, then come back to the city and pay fair market value based upon an appraisal from a foundation. So we're funding more money back to the city. And we start to calculate these transactions on a yearly basis. We're talking a tremendous amount of money that can be diverted back to the city for services, for your pensions, for your salaries, which need to be kept in line for your AAA rating on the bonds. So I have no issue on this transaction. Again, we need more affordable housing, MFI 30% or lower. We need to focus on the sidewalks, the doorways, getting people into housing, and understanding the tourism dollars alone, the benefits, the increases, and the benefits and increases to the businesses that will pay these projects off in a relatively fast time frame. And we need to look at that very close based upon data. Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay.
So,
questions?
yeah, we did have a representative from Hoyt Street. I don't know if you wanted to say anything, or Hoyt Street Properties, excuse me.
Hi, Mayor, Commissioners. Dina Alexander, outside counsel for Hoyt Street at Radler White Parks in Alexander. And I just want to first commend the city on 1999, where the city was at on affordable housing. This is a very forward-looking development agreement in terms of a 35% affordable goal. And note that Hoyt Street has done a lot in the district. 30% is very commendable, again, based on when this DA and when their work in the district was started. And we just appreciate the city's and the Housing Bureau's process. We have abided by the terms of the development agreement, and it has gone smoothly, and we have worked well with the Housing Bureau, and we look forward to closing this sale and allowing the city to build affordable housing on the site.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
I would just like to, no, you can go ahead and sit down. I just want to thank everybody on our side of the ledger who's been involved in this deal. Javier Mena from Housing Bureau, Tracy Manning, Barbara Shaw, Lisa Gramp in the City Attorney's Office, Shannon Callahan in my office. And I'd like to acknowledge Hoyt Street Properties for their continued support of affordable housing in the Pearl District and being willing to negotiate even more favorable terms to the city above and beyond what they were obligated to do in the development agreement. And finally, I'd just like to say how pleased we are to have this parcel available to add more affordable housing in the Pearl District. The Housing Bureau will be fast-tracking the development of this property to bring much-needed housing online expeditiously. Thank you.
Thank you. Good work. Okay, roll call, please.
Fish?
Dan, congratulations, and thank you for your good work, and to your outstanding team at the Housing Bureau. Aye.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Novick?
This
This is exciting to look at an agreement that was developed 16 years ago and see this piece of it coming to fruition. So yeah, congratulations to Commissioner Saltzman and the team and to Hoyt Street Properties. And I'll take the opportunity again to express my bitter disappointment that Tracy Manning will be leaving us next week. Aye.
Fritz. Thanks. Aye.
Hale?
Great outcome. Yeah, 16 years later with a recession and a boom or two in between, we're making good on the long-term plan in a good way. Thank you. Aye. We're recessed till 2 p.m.